Hooker down the middle, got him on the fly. It's Hyatt again, and he's going to take it. Touchdown, Tennessee. 78 yards.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
May again wants to throw for the end zone. There's Downs. Touchdown, Carolina.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Play action. Wide open is Mayer, and he's going to walk in for a Notre Dame touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
From their own 7. A-Chain trying to change that, and he can quickly. Watch out! Can he get the block to the outside? A-Chain, mega chunk play, out of trouble, just like that.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Blitz up the middle, picked up. Djokovic has Zay. Got him.
Oh, my.
It's a foot race to the pylon, and Zay's going to win it.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we are this Thursday afternoon, just after 3 o'clock. We will have John Wilner, who writes for the Pac-12 Hotline and also the San Jose Mercury News. He'll join us after the decision from the Pac-12, or excuse me, the California system, the University of California system on UCLA leaving and also some type of subsidy to the University of California. We'll get some of his feedback on it. We'll have ours. The NCAA has a new president, some NFL adds to the NFL draft from the college level. Purdue hit twice today with that. Coaching carousel, NIL news of interest, and we also have Max Olson today. Craig's off the radar. Paul's top 5. Alan Karpik covers Purdue, and then also Mickey on the Dallas Cowboys, Mickey Spagnola, Dallas Cowboys. Let's start with the NCAA. They have named their next president. Mark Emmert is on his way out, which I think a lot of people might celebrate. Charlie Baker, governor of Massachusetts, will serve as the next NCAA president effective March of the upcoming year.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. Charlie Baker is a Republican governor from the state of Kennedy, a very Democratic state, and has at least a reputation in that state of being able to negotiate and get things done, avoiding a lot of the gridlock we see other places. So I don't know if that is true or political legend, but we'll see in the future. It's outside the walls of academia, which I think is a good choice, especially given the fact that so much of the stuff going on with college athletics now needs someone with maybe government experience and has someone who can maybe open the doors to get legislation moving forward, meaningful legislation to guardrail all the things like NIL and all that are going on, so that there are rules that are the same across all 50 states and not different rules and different things, and thus making it more complicated. I think it'll be interesting to see how he does. Linda Livingstone was on the committee, and I guess she'll be with us tomorrow.
She'll be with us tomorrow, right off the top of the show at 3 o'clock, just after 3 o'clock. I think the best news of this is that Mark Emmert is leaving. We kind of knew that. And, Craig, there's now a new voice at the top. The Transformational Committee, of course, has a lot of clout as well. But Charlie Baker now takes over in March.
First of all, did you say the state of Kennedy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
State of Kennedy.
Massachusetts.
Okay.
Where the family is like.
Right, but the state of Kennedy, when we started calling it that?
I did that.
Okay,
I mean, like Kennedy, the Kennedy blood still runs through that political
I've never
thing.
ever in my life heard it referred to the state of Kennedy, so that's why I was caught off guard by that. Okay, yeah, I just thought you misspoke. I was like, all right, but yeah, Massachusetts. I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, it's cool, I guess. That there's this decision that's now been made. I mean, I don't know what it really results in, though. I mean, we have to wait and see what this actually turns into before getting too high or too, down in the dumps about, the next NCAA evolution. There's obviously a bad taste in most people's mouths when it comes to just even the phrase NCAA being thrown out. They've not really created a lot of goodwill in the last several years, and I don't think people really trust that organization or that entity to really do what's best overall, or really, I guess, have any confidence that they have the ability to do what people feel they need to do at this point, because they did have the power at one point in time.
They had all the power.
Thought that they could just sit on that for life, and no matter how many times people came to them and said, hey, you better do something about this or it's going to hurt you. You better do something about this or you're going to get lost in the shuffle. You better do something about this or it's going to wash away some of your power. You better do something about this. I mean, no matter how many warnings they got, they just sat there fat and happy like nothing was ever going to come home to roost. And then everything came home to roost pretty much in like a few years' time. And they were just sitting there left with no answers to anything. And now they're basically scrambling in so many ways. And I don't really know what authority or what kind of pull they're going to have in the future. I mean, obviously, this is a statement being made in terms of going the governor route, like Paul referred to, getting somebody a bit different than we've seen. But, ultimately, outside of running the tournament and being involved in that, as we know that they will be, what is their pull in the college sports conversation? Like, what are we talking about them and why? And, what kind of power do they have moving forward? I don't know. I feel like that's kind of in the dark a little bit. So there's a lot on the plate of, Baker and all the people like Livingstone that will be working alongside him and with him. But, that's a big hire out of the way now. So that's one less thing to do. And now they can hopefully turn their focus on, the subjects that are really pertaining the most to college athletics right now.
Well, they're doing that with the transformational committee, or trying to look at things. And Dr. Livingstone of Baylor, who is the one that led this search committee for the new president, she will join us tomorrow at about this time.
Yeah, and I think that it would be wise for Mark Emmert to ride off into the sunset very quietly. I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to try to do something like, look at all that's changed under this tenure. No, nothing happened because of Mark Emmert and the NCAA. A bunch of stuff happened to it.
Great point. You know what? Bob Bowlesby, and when they announced that he was stepping down and that your Mark was introduced, you never heard from him again.
Yeah.
That's what Mark Emmert needs to do.
Yeah, because everything that's happened, everything that's changed, from the O'Bannon lawsuit to Alford that opens the door for NIL to the transfer portal to anything that's going on right now in college athletics to the 12-team playoff in football, all of those things didn't happen because of him or because of the leadership or because of the direction of that organization. It happened to them because they had no idea what to do anything. And, pretty much in the offices right now, they organize a basketball tournament and send out emails about like, hey, can you guys tell us, what you're finding out in enforcement on NIL so we can, write a memo about a new rule that, was also going to get broken. I mean, that's what they do. And, the transformational committee has a long way to go, and Governor Baker is going to have a really, really tough job ahead of him.
All right, so that's one story. We're going to get to one on the Pac-12. John Wilner will join us in about 30 minutes, so we'll get a lot to it with him. But the Regents, the California Regents, approving UCLA's move to the Big Ten. But there are some conditions. The decision will be that UCLA will have to increase its expected investment in student-athlete resources to help with all the things of kids doing this and that, spending more time, travel, whatever. It should be doing that anyway. But also, they will be giving California a subsidy between $2 million and $10 million a year annual. I thought there was a one-time deal annually. And I even sent a text to Ben Bolch, who was in Maryland. By the way, so worried about travel, the UCLA men's basketball team's in Maryland last night. It was a nice win. but they're going to have to pay Cal based on $2 to $10 million based on the Pac-12 and their television deal. Maybe UCLA is going to get $35 million more compared to the new deal, and maybe there's a percentage there. We'll ask John about that, how they came up with $2 to $10 million.
Yeah, I mean, forever or just for the length of the first TV deal?
It says annual payment.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 2 years, 10 years, or the rest of their lives.
I would think it's probably for the first TV deal, and then after that, you can't keep doing that. Which the first TV deal's not all that long, as we know. It's only 5-6 years. So I mean, that's nothing really overall, and all of it was posturing, and I guess good for Berkeley to get a little bit of extra money on the back end, but. Their own report that the system did showed that USC leaving was much more detrimental to Cal than UCLA leaving. They'll lose more money doing that, but they can't do anything about USC because USC is not in that system. They're a private school.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad this big nothing burger is over. I mean, as far as I never thought that they were going to prevent UCLA from really leaving. I mean, I know that guys like Wilner really stoked the flames, and that there was a possibility. TJ tried to throw out there the scenarios in which there is, a pathway for them to be able to shut this down. But I never really thought in any way, shape, or form that they would be the big roadblock to all of this change occurring. Certainly could have disrupted it quite a bit. USC would have had to have found another tag partner, which I think they probably would have found somebody more than willing in the Northwest. It wouldn't have been that hard. I do think, too, the Big Ten could have just said, okay, well, if you're going to screw us over with this one school, then we'll just take a couple more and really shatter your TV deal, and then what are you getting?
Yep.
And you get nothing. You can have UCLA. You get nothing, though. You get no subsidy, no handout, no nothing. So I don't think that they were really in a winning position to begin with. But, they had to do their little grandstanding, and Gavin Newsom had to go out there and flash his pearly whites and, had to get some, goodwill, and they had to go through the whole political part of this. And now that that's over and we can get down to business, USC is going to the Big Ten. And I think that's what most people who listen to our show are probably most interested in, is the fact that, okay, that chapter can now begin. I guess good for Cal that they're going to get some change to be subsidized and help offset the losses. That's whatever to me, but I'm glad that UCLA now has the pathway clear. I'm not sure how them in the Big Ten actually looks. I see all the reasons why it's going to be a massive success. I see all the reasons why people think that could wear a little bit, having team from LA traveling all over the country and across the entire country in some cases. But I'm sure they'll be smart as far as how they set that up. And you get enough teams, you don't have to travel that far. You can keep it kind of conference-y and, or divisional, and not have to have the Rutgers cross-country trip all that often. Or, you go out there and you stay for maybe a week and you play 2 or 3 teams all in one go. So there's ways to offset that, but I always felt like this was a reach to begin with and was something that was just hope more than anything else. And I think ultimately it was, even though, yes, again, they did have, in theory, a chance to put the kibosh on this, but I'm glad we're dealing with reality once again, and we're moving down the pathway that we all knew we were probably going to be moving down, and that's UCLA going to the Big Ten.
Kevin Warren said thank you. UCLA's AD was, listen, we're not playing at Rutgers every day, every week. We're not, he was still, I think, the $2 to $10 million deal. I don't know what that ends up being.
I think there's a lot of posturing here,
also,
man.
Just go back to the very beginning. Not that everybody always makes smart decisions or doesn't see, potholes in front of them, but would UCLA have even done it if they thought that the university system would get in their way? No. It wouldn't even have been it would have been a non-starter.
Or maybe it's one of those things that you do feel like they're going to, it's Cal you're dealing with here. It's Berkeley. So, you probably had to have figured, knowing those people as well as you do, that there would be some sort of objection or you'd have to pay some tax on the way out. But I think it's one of those things where you do it and then you worry about the consequences later. More so than not starting at all, you really give yourself absolutely no shot to do it. If they fight back, we're not going to, so let's just do it. Let's get burned and then, pay our poll or pay our tax and move on along. And that's basically what they're doing.
So let's get to some more college football-like transaction. Ryan O'Keefe got 184 passes and 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns in 4 years at UCF. Has made the decision to go to Boston College. So there's a transfer portal story there.
He's a good player.
Now, he's obviously very productive. Now, who leads the league or the country in transfer portal cup standings? Yes, we have one of these. Now, that doesn't include maybe today. A&M 22, Florida 18, Arizona, you see the list, a bunch at 17. There's a Stanford at 16, David Shaw no longer there. And then 15, Maryland, Washington State, 14. And Oklahoma State's got to be somewhere close to that number. I don't see them on that list. But now you have not a top 25 rankings, but a Portal Cup standings. Mike Farrell at Farrell Portal with that one as of since, in fact, including most scholarships since August the 1st.
What I'm curious to see on this is how many are guys who play or have played and contributed. Now, look, the attrition is attrition. I mean, it hurts no matter what in different ways. How many are guys from recent recruiting classes who, got their first NIL payment, didn't like the city they were in, and decided to leave? And how many are guys that, just can't, couldn't crack the rotation and need to go to a different spot? So there's all different ones, and the portal affects everybody differently. A&M at 22 is probably different than, say, when West Virginia had 24 a couple years ago and then just everybody left. But even still, that's going to hurt them. And it kind of, pulls down the facade of that recruiting class from last year when you've lost, 3 or 4 of those guys already in Smoak Bowie, Denver Harris, Chris Marshall, and there's a couple others. Now, look, Denver Harris was going to get shown the door no matter what. Chris Marshall had also been in trouble, but, it's kind of every little thing that Jimbo can say that I've done well at Texas A&M. Well, you lose 22 guys to the portal after a 5-7 season. Heck, man, what are you doing well?
Yeah, it's almost like those recruiting rankings. I mean, they matter, but they're not the end-all, be-all, and they're treated as such, I realize, because there's an entire industry that's built on it. So you need to focus on how, important it is, because that's a big, that's the main vein of a business, of an industry at this point. But you do look at, like, kind of the follow-up to that, and A&M's gotten their fair share of flack, certainly, but it's just weird. Like a year ago, we were celebrating, like, here's A&M. They're going to be on the warpath. They're going to run the SEC. They're going to do this and that, and Jimbo and blah, blah, blah. And, like, now the class is completely falling apart. It's been less than 365 days. So, like, what a fake celebration that turned out to, it was a fun in the moment thing. But, a few months later, and that whole thing's, already been, it's riddled with bullet holes. It's falling apart at the seams. It's hanging on. But what kind of, production they're able to maximize out of that class ultimately over 3 or 4 years, we'll see how that plays out when all is said and done. But yeah, certainly a mass exodus for A&M and many others. I mean, 18's not nothing for Florida, and I know 17's not nothing either. But it's just funny that signing day is a big day. Getting a top 5 class, I'm not trying to say that doesn't matter at all, but you do there is a process that comes after that, and that's the production from said class. So we'll see. Some of these are very calculated moves, like Paul said. These are intentional, that you want to, rid the roster of some guys who were maybe at one point really big recruits who aren't, producing for you anymore, or guys who don't fit your style. Go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is that to me, the rankings now that matter are where they are 3 years after signing day.
Right.
Yeah, national signing day. And now these portal standings, where are we after they then go and fill their rosters back up? And then how many of those players are better than the ones that left?
Yeah, I mean, it's a
never-ending deal.
It's a never-ending deal, basically, yeah.
2 things. Purdue, quarterback Aiden O'Connell, pretty good player, announced that he's skipping the Citrus Bowl against LSU, heading to the NFL draft. Also, this one here, yet another player moving on. The top cornerback for Purdue, I saw Tom Dienhart actually mention that, the top cornerback, Corey Trice, their best corner, hitting the NFL draft. So Purdue gets a couple of guys who are on their way to the NFL. And today, Purdue also, there was one note, Drew Brees has joined the coaching staff, helping Brom's son coach them up through the bowl game. Helping coach him up to the bowl game. So there's that story. Now, coaching news, along with what I just gave you. Bobby Petrino, thought to be talking to A&M about the offensive coordinator's position, is now leaving, but it's for the offensive coordinator's job at UNLV.
Yeah, I never really thought that he and Jimbo Fisher would be. I mean, he was rumored to be up for the A&M job, and maybe he did interview for it. But UNLV is a considerably smaller job than A&M, so I don't know if that was his agent floating that out there or whatever to try to get him more interviews because he clearly wants to get back up a level. Bobby Petrino does, but I could not see he and Jimbo Fisher coexisting in an offensive ecosystem.
I don't know how that rumor got started to begin with. I don't know, what A&M was thinking if they were actually taking that route all that seriously. I mean, I just think that applies so much more toxicity to the situation by adding Petrino, no matter how good of a football coach he is or not. Not that he's going to come in and start riding his motorcycle around campus and get into a bunch of trouble, but just simply it's like, might as well go hire Arbor Isles. You know what I mean? Like, just let's make it as controversial as we can. And I felt like there's so many names out there, and especially with Jimbo, being an offensive guy as it is, I know he's not in a situation he wants to be in ideally. He'd rather not be even worrying about, sharing some of the offensive process or play calling. But, there's plenty of guys out there to go get. And I just felt like Bobby Petrino, like right out the jump. So I'm glad that that's not necessarily going to be the case. I mean, just on the surface, football-wise, like good hire for UNLV. That was a job that at one point also Gary Patterson was linked to be the head coach at one point. So that's been an interesting position to follow. But, yeah, I didn't give Petrino much thought once that kind of seemed like it was just a thing that was fleeting, and good for him to find a landing spot, I suppose.
So there is another coaching story. Chip Lindsey from UCF, offensive coordinator, former Troy coach. Chip Lindsey now named the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, gets to coach Drake May, at North Carolina. How about that, huh?
Yeah, that's a good hire for Mac Brown. Of course, he made an absolutely fantastic one a couple of days ago when he brought Randy Clements in as offensive line coach. Now I'm curious to see what he and Gene Chizik do with that defense. I don't think he's changing coordinators. He's done that before. Well, Gene Chizik left, I guess, when he was at Texas. But I don't think he's changing coordinators. But they've got to do something about that defense. Maybe it's personnel, maybe it's scheme. But North Carolina, now granted their offense did slow to a crawl towards the end of the year too, based on their previous standards. But they need to get some stops.
Yeah, Chip Lindsey is a pretty well-respected guy. I know he didn't, do a lot of the play calling at UCF this past season, but pretty well-known, and that's a nice landing spot as North Carolina tries to retool, and like we said yesterday, really going all in with the opportunity they have with Drake May there at quarterback. That guy's a star in the making, or if not in some people's eyes already a star in some ways. I think he definitely faded down the stretch, but he was very, very good at multiple points throughout this season. And I think there was, when North Carolina was on that undefeated run, a little bit of a hesitation, but a little bit of a buzz of like, okay, if they keep winning games, like even if it's ugly and it's shootout wise, it's like, Drake May is going to start getting more and more love. And about the time he started to, it's about the time they started to skid, but he's a great player. They should have a lot at their disposal in terms of, hype going into next season as a result of that. But yeah, they must fix the defense. So that's really where, I think the overlying focus will be. But, good hire on the surface for Mac Brown and the Tar Heels.
Now, there's a couple of NIL stories, and this first one is not a surprise at all. This is from Fran Fraschilla from ESPN, very much locked in when it comes to college basketball programs, coaches, players, etc. I'm hearing that some talented college teams are starting to crack because the NIL payments not being made on time, NIL promises not kept, or jealousy among teammates. Shocker. Not a value judgment on NIL, so to speak. It's just human nature, the new normal. This is not Fran saying the NIL is not a good deal. What he's saying is, and this is probably something that you talked about, and that's why I want to hear a year or two from now, those who get money, are they broke in a year or two? Are they out of it? Did they get bad advice? And then some of them are playing professional ball, making even more money. But the jealousy part, that's just human nature too. That is, I don't care how much you know this guy's better than you. A guy's making $20, $30, $80, $100,000 or $1 million, and you're making nothing. You might understand his earning value, but there still has to be a little bit of, man.
Or, he got a bunch of money, he's not earning it, and
there you go.
Just kind of floating along, and it makes you mad. Just because, even though you're not going to get that money, you're working harder than this guy, all those different things. I mean, heck, it happens to people, their offense all the time. How many times you hear that the dumbest guy in your office makes more than you do, and you can't figure out why. I mean, those kind of things happen. The one thing I am the least surprised about is payments not being made on time, because these NIL collectives came together so quickly that you knew there were going to be a lot of bad ones, right? A lot of people say, yeah, I can get to that money. Or, my money's tied up here, we'll move it to here. It came together so quickly in a time in the United States economy that's not exactly booming, right? So that was bound to happen. I mean, it's just bound to happen.
I think anytime you're dealing with millions of dollars or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, it depends on which player we're talking about. Inevitably, there's going to be some problems created. I mean, money is the root of all evil, right? And you start to have a lot of it flowing around with adults and like 17-year-old and 18-year-old kids and their families. And it's just, it's a messy game that can get super messy if you're not careful with how you're set up. And certainly we've seen collectives fold into other collectives, and we've seen, them meld into one, and we've seen others sprout off of others. And there's nobody regulating it, right? So, who's to say what's going on in any given situation? So am I surprised by that? Absolutely not. I know that, so long as the money's flowing, probably the majority of people won't care because it's not their issue to deal with. But that report is, it's not surprising at all. And, I don't think it's any reason to say NIL's bad or anything like that. It's just the execution of NIL is what I think everyone has been saying this entire time is the issue of it all, is just simply the untamed nature and ungoverned nature of it is going to lead to problems. And, it's going to depend on your culture and your setup and all of that, for each institution on how well you're going to be able to contain, any sort of issues that may arise. But, certainly not all are created equal. And we've seen some of these, collectives, kind of seem like they were maybe running out of bounds a little bit, or just seem like, maybe it's getting a little weird. And to see that there's some issues with payments or things like that, that's not a surprise in any way, shape, or form. I'm just wondering when there's going to be a situation that it's bad enough to where somebody pops off about it. You know what I mean? And it's not just the rumor mill stuff, but it's
from a teammate or someone who doesn't get their money.
Exactly. Like somebody hits Twitter and is like, hey, this collective promised me this, and so hopefully that's not where it eventually goes, but I could see that happening without a doubt.
A couple more things before we get to this next one that was from the Notre Dame site. But Gunner, by the way, scored early in their high school football playoffs going on in Texas up at AT&T Stadium. Hawley hammered Refugio earlier. Bijan Robinson, Bryce Young, NIL deals, gifted their teammates. Bijan gave all of his teammates burnt orange Beats headphones. Alabama's Bryce Young did the same thing. So there's some of that where players who are getting it most likely the most are also then turning around and sharing some of that with gifts, whatever, with teammates. Now, this one here, I tried to get a hold of Brian earlier and I couldn't do it. It's a long read. But basically, this is the deal. Young man named Bowen, who's at Allen, he's a Blue Star, at Guyer High School. Peyton Bowen, stud, going to Notre Dame, right? Oregon, according to a report by Brian Driscoll, said that Oregon offered him a huge deal north of $2 million. Oklahoma told him they would match it. Now, I couldn't get Brian to give me anything else this morning. Notre Dame is fighting to keep him. Not sure exactly. At this point, Marcus Freeman's trying to rescue this commit. But this is where we are as we close in a week from today or yesterday on National Signing Day.
Yeah, I'd imagine Brian probably don't want to talk about it too much, seeing as it's a private message board message and it's not like a report. And that's why, you got the message board geniuses account that they go and they have memberships everywhere, and they'll give you the most salacious screenshots. But yeah, that's him talking to his Notre Dame people, and I don't think that was ever intended to be
sent that to me though.
Okay, I'm just saying that the message board geniuses account, they post stuff. It's not like these are reports that are sent out and published on a website. That's a forum post. So that's the kind of stuff that's going to be circulating this time of year. And, it's not a surprise. I mean, we're in the ocean and there's a lot of blood everywhere, and there's a bunch of sharks at various universities that are trying to land the biggest fish possible. And so anything basically goes. I mean, this is just further diving into the unregulated kind of Wild West thing. I hate saying the same term over and over that everybody uses, but it's basically what it is. So, like, at this point, if you tell me this kid's getting $50,000 or this kid's getting $5 million or this team's trying to poach or this team's calling Mississippi State recruits 12 hours after Mike Leach has died or this quarterback's demanding this, I believe it all. I believe every single story. And, until some are proven wrong, then I will have my doubts. But, yeah, I believe all this stuff is going on, and that's just kind of the situation that was created for better, for worse, for good or for bad, or however you want to view it. But
yeah, it's also wild to me that we live in a world where Notre Dame doesn't have as much money as some of the other ones.
Really?
I mean, like, think about that. Like, Notre Dame's going to be like, well, too rich for our blood, But, again, it's not – nothing's collectively bargained. It's not like there's owner, this is not like
pick and choose,
the
man.
NFL, there was a salary cap or, even though you may have richer owners than others, like they have rules in place in the professional leagues to make sure that Jerry Jones just can't cherry pick a whole roster because he's got money or Stan Kroenke the same thing.
It's also to save them from themselves.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
Not just spending to spend, because otherwise you get caught in a game. What are you going to pay $10 million for a guy? Like, I mean, how crazy do you want to get? Like, we know there's certain schools that they'll get as crazy as you want to get because they have unlimited funds or because they just have to win in football that bad. But yeah, I'm not surprised that Notre Dame's taking a measured approach and saying, like, okay, is this kid that good? Like, then what kind of precedent do you set?
Yep.
And word spreads. Like, it's not like that guy gets a deal and then all of a sudden, like, he and his people or whatever, they're just like, okay, that's all just between us, right? No, that figure gets passed around, and the next guy, he wants that figure. Oh, you add interest to it. The 2025 class, they now need a little bit of a bump, right? So, I mean, I think some people are trying to be measured in their approach and be realistic with this, that it's not just, it's not Major League Baseball, but for some programs it will be. And I think that'll become pretty evident pretty quickly, pretty clearly. And, you could argue A&M, Miami, whoever else you want to throw in there. At least last year they were kind of looked at that way as far as being the ones that were like, no matter what, we're just going to, spend money and get our guys and land this top recruiting class for better or worse. And in some cases it's been for worse, some cases probably eventually for the better, but yeah, I mean, some people it's pay to play, right? And some people are gonna want to keep paying, and some people are gonna be like, we'll go to a certain mark, but beyond like $1.5 million, $2 million for a guy, we can go get another quarterback for this figure or far, far less and be just as fine. So yeah, it's all part of the deal, and anything like that reported, I believe it. Yeah,
I do too. I do too. And so there's a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, including what we have coming up in just a moment. John Wilner, who's the Pac-12 hotline, his thoughts about what this decision yesterday really mean for UCLA, Cal, the Pac-12, and what you brought up, I think, Paul, earlier, that, okay, let's say the California system would have said, no, you can't leave, and then the Big Ten goes, okay, we're taking Oregon or Washington and or both, and what that meant. Oh, we'll get into that and get some questions to him on that. Earlier today, real quickly, Garrett, were you at the game, Baylor women?
Was watching it on TV. Had a doctor's appointment.
Beat Tennessee State badly, 93-27. The good news in that game is that Asia Blackwell, who's been out for the last, month or two, was back, played about 11 minutes or so, scored 9 points. She's going to start to play more minutes. Baylor playing against Arizona. Two top 25 teams on Sunday in Dallas. And then also the men will play a nightcap game against Washington State in that game as well. I think we covered pretty much everything. John Wilner today, he'll be next. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Jack McKenzie is here. Jacob Wilson is here. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thanks to all of you in the chat. You've already started working away at it, and we appreciate your time. And our sponsors.
I have a question. There's this NIL stuff. There's this coaching carousel. I find it all fascinating. Are people enjoying it? Is this making them enjoy college football more, the NIL stuff? And I don't ask that as like good or bad, like there's a right or wrong answer. But has it made you more of a college football fan, less interested, more interested? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would like just a temperature check on.
Yeah, I just put up the question
kind of
on
the swirling of all this stuff all at once. Like, I think the coaches probably hate this right now because this particular calendar is so messy, the way they've like squeezed it all into one. But as we rattle through, Notre Dame's like, no, we're not paying $2 million for a quarterback. This is basically what it used to be. We just didn't know all about it.
Yeah.
Now that we know all about it, did you prefer it when we kind of like nod, wink, wink, money's going around, or do you like that it's just
all right?
every man for himself.
Patrick Shaney, Craig, nope. Doug, makes me sick. Paxton, yes, more interested. Jacob, more at times, sometimes no. Michael, Mike Bean, way more interesting. Honestly, Craig, it hasn't affected me either way. From King Williams. Bradley, the musical chairs is kind of exhausting. Nathan, definitely more interesting.
Okay.
UC Regent Gumby, I don't like the toll it can take on the schools, coaching staff, teams, and all involved. Provo. So you get it's kind of split down the middle.
And I'm kind of like that depending on what the story is, right? Yep. Like some of them I'm way more interested in. Some of them like, okay, I kind of have my fill of this particular thing. But I think I'm a little bit of everybody, and that's why I asked that question, is because there is just so much that you're trying to wrap your head around. So thank you for the responses.
Paul, just a second. The problem now is there's no structure for it. Interested, but had to see a loss of integrity. Eric said, "I'm definitely more interested in college football thanks to realignment, NIL, and the portal. To me, it's very exciting." Okay. And then some of you have said, once it's leaked, tweaked, the better it will get. Love college football. NIL is interesting. So a lot of you, not a fan. It seems like NIL just helps the Blue Bloods. That's from Mike.
Yeah, NIL, I'm not really interested in because I don't know what we're talking about.
Like what I said the other day.
Katie Rader, dirty.
Yeah, I don't know what we're really talking about here. Now, as a person who thinks that there are several sports where free agency is much more interesting than the actual regular season,
like the NBA,
I do like kind of get excited about the transfer portal and mixing things up here and seeing that. I don't know if it makes it better. I think it makes it a little bit more democratic than it was before, but I don't know if it's better, but I'm interested in it. It intrigues me, and realignment is what it is.
Kay Hustle, the sports preacher. Players get poached just like coaches for more money. Kealani, some college football fans may be more interested, but the changes aren't making new college football fans. It'll only turn off a large percentage, in his opinion. One of the things that I wonder about, and we got to get to our guest in the next segment, will there be any attachment? Can you have like a player that you see come to your school as a fan, you've known him for a year, 2, 3, or 4, or is there ever really going to be any kind of, relationship, so to speak, as a fan because you've seen someone come through the system? Maybe there's still going to be a lot of those players. Jacob, NIL makes me scared to get left behind in the G5 for many years to come.
Take your hand off your mouth.
Back with John Wilner next on on 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
John Wilner at Wilner Hotline on Twitter, part of the Pac-12 hotline, and writes for basically almost every newspaper imaginable. Joins us, 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. John, thank you very much for your time. The decision yesterday, was there any part of California's system, knowing if they did block UCLA, that the Pac-12, even though it's the California system, the danger was the Big Ten went and found somebody else and it just wrecked a little bit more of the Pac-12?
You know, I don't think that they took that into account. I mean, that's certainly a very reasonable conclusion to come to if they had blocked UCLA. But, you know, this governing body looks at Cal and UCLA and all the other campuses in the university system as like one body, and their goal is to, and their mission is to do what they think is best for that system. And I don't think they took into account what may happen to the Pac-12, if they had somehow blocked that move.
John, this was, seemed like more posturing than anything, or clarification. A lot of the people on this, on the board are not in athletics. They don't, operate in that world. So was this more for clarification? Was it posturing? Was this even worth time? Could they have just told UCLA, pay the fee, and then you're good without all this rigmarole?
Well, they could have, but that's not how, governing bodies in higher education usually work, right? Most things take a long time in higher education. Look, I think that this was, by far the most likely outcome, but it was not. People are assuming that this was a rubber stamp thing from the very beginning, back in July, when Gavin Newsom railed about UCLA's process. It was not a rubber stamp until, 4 or 6 weeks ago, when the board, I think the majority of folks on that board decided, you know what, we're going to let UCLA go. The way out is to let UCLA go, take steps to make sure that the athletes are protected, and also take steps to make sure that there's something in it for Petrino. That gives Newsom a political win as well, which you can't discount the importance of that. But I don't think that this was rubber stamped to end like this, back in July or August. There was real push for them overturning it at that point, and I think they got to the point that they could reach a compromise, in the last month or two, and they took that road.
John, I was reading some of the comments from Rich Lieb, the chair of the UC Regents, and he's saying, I'd love for there to be harmony amongst everybody. To be honest, I would love for Cal in the Big Ten, but that's not where it is right now. He later said, we certainly put some pressure to see if we could. In the end, expansion was not going to be on the table for us. So how much of this was hope that perhaps some others would be able to tag along and head off to the Big Ten, or Cal being able to go off to the Big Ten as well, and hope that there might be an invite in store if they were to go through this process?
Yeah, no, I think that was certainly something they explored in the first few months, right back in August, September, maybe October. But, I think that more broadly, it seems like the Big Ten is done expanding for right now. Certainly the board, they're trying to do what's in the best interest of all of the universities in their system, and getting Cal into the Big Ten was something they looked into. Cal's role in this whole thing can't be overlooked. I mean, Cal pushed hard to try to leverage this to get themselves in the Big Ten, to try to get themselves money. They were putting a lot of pressure on that board, which is why, I think part of the reason why it took so long and was so complicated. They were hearing from UCLA, but they were also hearing that Cal, and they were hearing, for months on end about this.
John, if the system is to protect all the schools within the system, and I know that Cal and UCLA are the ones in the Pac-12 and UCLA eventually the Big Ten, but if their job is to protect everybody within the system, did they ever think about UCLA and that stipend or subsidy going to other schools within the system?
I don't know for sure if they did or not, but I would say that Cal is the one whose, revenue stream is more affected. The only one whose revenue stream is really affected by UCLA's decision, right? I mean, UC Irvine and the Big West, for instance, they're not losing money directly because of UCLA's decision. I think that is how they justify keeping the subsidy just to the Berkeley campus and not to the other 7 or 8 undergraduate campuses.
So how does the Pac-12 respond now? George Kliavkoff had made some comments about, maybe that UCLA isn't going, and, that was, that's what his job is, to try to keep things together as much as he can. But do they move on expansion now that this domino has finally fallen?
Yeah, I think that, and this is just my interpretation, but I think that the conference office figured there was like a 5% chance that UCLA was not going to go to the Big Ten. But they didn't feel like they could finalize a media deal until they knew that for sure, because UCLA was such a big part of the whole calculation. So they're gonna, I think once we get out of the holidays, I think they're gonna probably move pretty quick to wrap up their deal. They claim, or they have stated, that their order of the process is going to be to get a media rights deal first, then take it to the presidents for approval, and then address expansion. So by the time this whole thing, they could not get to expansion until sometime in the spring, for all I know. But I would imagine that they try to finalize a media deal sometime in January.
John, is that something, that media deal, that you're still hearing? I know, like, a lot of the talk out there that's been about it has been, the streaming focus, perhaps a deal with Amazon. Is that kind of where they're still, I guess, eyeing the prize, so to speak, or is there, thoughts about maybe something different that we haven't thought about?
I don't know that there's something else. My thinking all along has been that it will be, there'll be 3 partners, ESPN, Fox with a small package of games probably, and Amazon, or maybe Apple. I don't know that they'll have both, but I think we can't completely ignore the potential for Apple, given that, Apple is getting into sports. I think they got MLS, they got MLB, and again, it's for folks who don't live out here. It's kind of hard to imagine how deeply rooted in the culture on the West Coast, Amazon and Apple are, and how important, how big a deal that universities see relationships with those companies. So I think it'll be Amazon, ESPN, and Fox when all is said and done.
John, let's reverse this. If California had been offered a chance to join the Big Ten and not UCLA, would the Regents have done the same thing?
Oh, I think they would have. I mean, well, put it this way. I don't know what the revenue hit would have been, right? That's the piece. They would have certainly been looking out for UCLA's best interest in the aftermath of Cal leaving. So let's flip it and say it was Stanford and Cal that went instead of USC and UCLA. Yeah, they would certainly look into it, but I just don't know that because of the difference in the media markets that there would have been as big a revenue hit to all the other schools in the conference.
Of the 2 to 10 million annual payment, is that dependent on what the Pac-12 ends up with their TV deal and maybe the difference between what UCLA is getting with the Big Ten deal? How will it be 2 million, or how will it be 8 million, or how will it be 10 million?
Yeah, I think that's what they're waiting on, is to see exactly what Cal's going to end up with. Now, I don't know. Behind closed doors, they could have come up with a formula for deciding, but they didn't make that public in the documents that they are required to post online. So it's kind of anybody's guess. And the thing is, they came out of their closed door meetings yesterday, and the range for the subsidy was $2 million to $5 million. And then in like 30 seconds during their open discussion, all of a sudden they vote to jack up the range to $10 million. So they can kind of do what they want, but I don't know if they have an actual formula that's gonna be based on what that revenue difference is between the Pac-12 deal and the Big Ten deal. It's a good question. That's one of the unknowns.
John, UCLA and USC could not have picked a better season to tell everybody that they were leaving on. It was very exciting, in LA for both teams, and great games all year long. So it looks like they had picked a good year to sell themselves to a new conference. But for the teams in the Bay Area, Stanford and Cal, things are pretty moribund right now. How do they get some juice back into their programs?
Yeah, Stanford and Cal have got a lot of challenges, and most of them have nothing to do with the actual coaching and playing of the both football and men's basketball too. I mean, institutionally, both are more like the Ivy League in a lot of respects than they are like anything in the Power Five, right? And so they've got to decide how much they're willing to adjust or evolve to what major college football and major college basketball are becoming, right? And I think that Stanford is really thinking hard. Do they want to be a part of college football? Let's say in 5 years, right, there's revenue sharing with the athletes. I mean, that's the way things look like they're going legislatively. So if the athletes are declared, semi-employees in 5 years and are given $25,000 every season out of athletic department revenue, I don't know that Stanford is going to want to do that, right? Institutionally, both schools up here have got to decide, are they all in or are they not all in? And that's also a question if the Big Ten ever wants to expand again out west and create a division out here, right? Big Ten's going to want to know, all right, Stanford, are you in? Cal, are you in, or are you just going to, rather be in the Ivies?
John, I asked Mac Rose, Baylor AD, about this when we talked to him, when your Mark was making some comments. I asked him about grant of rights. Any idea the Pac-12, is there going to be like a grant of rights standard as what we became accustomed to, or is this going to be, like they sign like a 2-year thing just in case the Big Ten or the SEC come calling?
That's one of the unknowns. They are, I believe that what they want to do, and I don't know if they're going to get this done or not, but I think what they want to do is sign a 5-year deal. And that would carry them through the rest of this decade, and it would expire 1 year before the Big Ten's deal, right? I mean, right now it's kind of lined up. You got the Big 12 is 2031, and the Big Ten is 2030 for expiration. And I think the Pac-12 wants to have theirs expire in 2029 so they could then get another turn at the media rights table before those conferences. But I don't know if ESPN and Fox will play ball with that or not. But I think that's their plan.
John, you know, Cal's going to get some money. You mentioned the Big Ten money for UCLA. Does Cal even need money? Don't they have all they ever need? Is this more just, okay, we have to punish UCLA in some particular way?
No, Cal is desperate for money.
Okay.
Part of Cal is right now. Cal is running a huge deficit. They got like $8-10 million a year in debt service on their stadium renovation. They take Cal's athletic department gets $25 million from Central Campus every year to help balance their books. And part of the reason for that is Cal supports 30 intercollegiate sports, which I believe is, other than Ohio State, I believe that is the most in major college football and basketball. Most schools are like at 20, 22, 24. Cal's got 30 sports they got to pay for. 2 of them make money, right? And so they are constantly in debt. They had 4 sports on the chopping block like 8 years ago, decided ultimately they weren't going to cut them, but they absolutely need money. There's no question about that. The interesting thing is UCLA needs money too, but for different reasons, right? UCLA has fewer sports, but UCLA's, they don't get, their athletic department, they don't get anything from Central Campus on an annual basis. In fact, UCLA's athletic department, they have to pay rent on Pauley Pavilion, which is not owned by athletics, it's owned by campus. So UCLA and Cal are both in huge debt, and they've gotten there 2 totally different paths.
John, the comments by George Kliavkoff, and I know he's representing the conference, but the conference about how their value goes up because of Deion to Colorado, do you believe that?
So I actually asked him about that comment the next day because it really didn't kind of ring true to me. One coach is going to increase your value with ESPN and Fox. And he said that what he meant was he told me he did not intend for that to be taken as hiring Deion is going to increase our media rights value. He meant it in a much more indirect fashion. So Colorado hires Deion. Colorado starts winning games. Colorado gets, this is his thinking, Colorado gets ranked. Colorado gets higher TV ratings. And all of that leads to, over time, a higher valuation for the Pac-12. He did not intend to suggest Deion's presence in Boulder will have an impact on their current media negotiations.
All right, John, we all know, and you know, because you've taken tweets, and we have too, that when the Big Ten or the Big 12 and the big Pac-12, there was this like, who's going to survive first? The Big 12 has obviously stabilized themselves. The Pac-12 or 10 or whatever it's going to be has to make some decisions. Did you honestly also think it would be this late in the year or early in the year before they secured a TV deal 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago?
No, I did. Honestly, I did not. But I also was a little bit ignorant on how long the UCLA situation was going to take. I did not think the Regents were going to drag this thing out for what has it been, 5 months. And that has, and say what you will, again, the conference thought it was extremely unlikely that UCLA was going to have to reverse, but they also didn't feel like they should finalize a deal without knowing that for sure. So if you had told me in July the Regents are going to drag this thing out to December, well, then I probably would have said, well, the Pac-12 will also drag out its media deal. I just had no idea how slowly that governing body was going to address this deal.
Where are they going to get new programs to add if they do expand? Where are the most likely places?
Well, I think that they need to go to San Diego State for a couple of reasons. One, I just think having a campus in Southern California is really important. And San Diego State, they've got a new stadium. That's a pretty good recruiting area. It's a top 25 media market. Makes a lot of sense to me for them to go get San Diego State. Plus, it's a defensive play, right? Obviously, the Big 12 is going to try to get out west, which is smart. And I'm sure San Diego State is near or at the top of their list. So the Pac-12 goes and gets San Diego State, it prevents the Big 12 from having a campus in San Diego and the Big 10 from having campuses in LA. To me, that would be a disaster for the Pac-12. The other one I think is, I think that there is some sentiment at the presidential level to consider SMU. They like SMU's academic profile and SMU's, the things that matter to the presidents, right? The endowment, that kind of deal, the research money, all those things. And they like potentially having a foothold in Dallas. I know SMU is way down the totem pole there, but I think that that's got some appeal to them. Those would be at the top of my list if I were guessing where they would go. Gonzaga is also interesting on a basketball-only basis, and I'm sure they're considering that as well.
Do you think there's any chance that Oregon, kind of in their own little mind, what they think of themselves, might say, we don't want to sign a grant of rights? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible, but I don't know. I just don't know where Oregon's options are right now. Maybe something will resurface with the Big Ten, but I don't get the sense that Kevin Warren has the votes right now to expand again. So I would imagine Oregon would sign some kind of short-term deal, right? And I think we also can't totally overlook the impact that the expanded playoff and the way they've got the selection process set up, that is not going to override, the chance to get into the Big Ten for some of these schools. But I think for a lot of them, it's at least a carrot, right? I mean, it's, Oregon or Washington, for both of them, you win the Pac-12, you're going to be in the playoff. And certainly, for everybody, right? The chance to host a playoff game on your campus in the second week of December, that is a huge deal for all the schools in the ACC, Big 12, and Pac-12.
John, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. It's been a crazy 5 to 6, 7 months, really the last year and a half, all the changes with USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma. John Wilner with us, Pac-12 Hotline on 365 Sports. Max Olson, theathletic.com, is next. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas. That's where my dentist is. That's where if you need a dentist or you want to think about it, you have kind of left your dental work, not taking care of it, not paying attention to it, not keeping the maintenance up like I did for too long. They have what you need. Specialize in fillings, crowns, sealants, periodontal therapy, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, fluoride, implants, bridges, dentures, partials, treatment of TMG, full mouth restoration, and biostatic dentistry. 5 dentists, 11 hygienists, and also an exceptional support staff from those who you talk to when you set up an appointment to those who remind you many times before it's time for that appointment. And, of course, what they do when you're there, treating you like even though that place is busy as you could possibly think, it seems like you're the only one there based on the attention you get. From the dentist to everyone in between, from when the time you walk in the door and even before that time, and then you walk out with your smile better because something is better within your mouth and your dental work is better, healthier, more fit. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Max Olson of The Athletic. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus. And best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects. With 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Yesterday, Sam Kahn joined us, theathletic.com. Remember, he was embedded with the University of Houston, going over what they were doing with the transfer portal. Max Olson, I think a better story with him. He should have been embedded with you watching the transfer portal. It is crazy. The numbers are nuts. It's left and right. Your thoughts about where we are now a week into this?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. You know, we've surpassed 1,000 scholarship FBS players in the portal at this point, and about 100 of them have made commitments so far. So we still got a long ways to go here in terms of not just. I'm sure that there will continue to be more people hopping in, but certainly now we're kind of shifting into that phase of who's going where, and especially very intriguing at the quarterback position because other than Cade McNamara going to Iowa, not many of those players have made their decisions. So. Yeah, you're certainly curious every day if some more big names will pop up like Grayson McCall did this week. But now, as we approach signing day and dead period and all that stuff, the visits these guys are taking are really important. And I think we're going to see just a flood of commitments coming here in the next few weeks.
Is there interest in guys like Keaton Slovis and JT Daniels that are, I know they're quarterbacks, but they're very well-traveled?
I don't know about JT. I haven't heard about maybe his situation, and especially I think that's one you probably ought to look a little bit closer into, like how do you get him eligible next year and stuff like that. I'm sure that's going to be an interesting process. But I do know, Keaton Slovis has got some good options. He did visit BYU. They've also brought in Drew Pine for a visit. I know he's on the radar for actually going back to the Pac-12. He's on the radar for UCLA and for Oregon State. So I think Keaton Slovis is probably going to end up in a good spot here. Not sure if Jaron Hall's coming back for BYU. That's an interesting question mark. But if you watch Oregon State this season, that was a really good, I believe, 9-win team or 8 or 9-win team that just needed a quarterback. So he could potentially be a good option for them.
Yeah, Jaron Hall's in a boot. He's not going to play in their bowl game, it looks like. But another quarterback, one that made a different move, Max, Austin Reed went into the portal and then came back out of the portal and sticking with Western Kentucky. How did you kind of digest that?
Yeah, I just think the NIL money at Western Kentucky is hard to beat. You know, guys, it's pretty,
that topper money, man.
I actually think I think some people did step in and take care of him. I think he had posted an ad the same day he announced something like that. So, some of these schools can try and do something to try and get a guy to stay. But yeah, the popular belief was that he was probably going to go to Louisville, which could actually be a really good fit with with what Jeff Brom is going to be doing there offensively. But cool to see a guy stay. It's cool to see a guy that, is number 2 in the country in passing yards this season, moved up from a lower level at D2 to being really productive at Western Kentucky. And they've got some guys coming back. And, I think that's a neat story. Austin Reed, a guy that bet on himself and moving up and, certainly could have gone to Power 5 school, but certainly feels like he's got a chance here to have another great year at Western Kentucky.
We know that players who are being recruited, high school players, they could commit. That doesn't mean people stop trying to get them to change. In fact, we'll see a slew of that, and I have. We will over the next few days. How many times have you learned at all, if you can, how much a player has been contacted prior, a college player, they put their name in the transfer portal?
Yeah, it's interesting, especially, in that conversation when it comes to quarterback. And the amount of money that is allegedly getting thrown around and offered, and you never really know how much of that is real and how much of that is exaggerated and stuff. But certainly, like when you call around and you talk to folks and ask them, like, well, hey, who is this school looking at in terms of trying? Like, there are some schools out there that they're trying to go get a transfer quarterback, and so you ask around, like, who are they looking at? And you hear names that aren't even in the portal yet, and we reported them today. Like, like if you ask around. Sam Hartman's a really popular guy that if he wanted to go in the portal, I think he probably would make a lot of money at his next school. And I think that's the case for Michael Pratt at Tulane as well. These are two guys and there's others out there that people are looking at. You saw Drake May say he's staying, but there's other guys out there that haven't gone in the portal. And you kind of wonder, like, is somebody going to kind of make them an offer they can't refuse? And it doesn't maybe necessarily mean they want to leave where they're at, but we're in a really silly season right now. And as these teams are trying to figure out who's the best guy moving forward for them at quarterback. You're looking at the guys who are on the market, and some of these places are looking at guys who aren't yet on the market.
Max, it's really interesting the amount of, there's some guys who are going to be one and dones, like Devin Leary out there. Sam Hartman certainly would be. Pratt would be. Grayson McCall is. I know that they're marking, Grayson McCall's going to Auburn, but if you look at some of the blue blood teams, and their quarterback depth, like I'll just throw out Ohio State and Alabama. I mean, they wouldn't be maybe against taking a one and done guy to let some of their young guys marinate for a little bit, would they?
Yeah, that's the thing that it's a really tricky balance right now. Like Ohio State, they flipped a quarterback from Washington this week for their 23 class. But that's the thing you're trying to balance. It's like, in that example, it's going to be Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, who are really highly touted guys who've been in that program, competing for that job. So is there someone out there who's a lot better than them? I mean, and if there is, whether they're in the portal or not, like, is that worth pursuing? Because you know that you're probably going to lose one or both of them if you go in that direction. I think same thing with Alabama. Like, if they're as long as they're holding on to, Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson, and they're bringing in 2 freshmen in this class, like, there's some of these programs that still, Georgia too, like, still kind of trust they've got talented people in the room, and they're going to have a good competition, and the best guy who wins is going to be good enough to play at a really high level. But that's always the, if Drake May were to go in the portal tomorrow, your plans change, right? You probably have a very different conversation about, well, wait a minute, this guy's best player in the ACC. That's what we've got to do. So, these are definitely very fluid plans right now, depending on who makes the changes.
Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. There has not been much even speculation about Dave Aranda and his defensive coordinator. Obviously, they're battling their own transfer portal, trying to either have some coming or going. They got a bowl game a week from today. Have you heard much at all? There was Jim Leonard's name that's out there. That might be too much of a big fish to handle, but have you heard anybody whatsoever?
No, I haven't this week. No, and I mean, it's interesting how these things go, right, guys? Where sometimes, just like we see with players, like there's some players that they move on from a program, but then suddenly get a lot of offers. Like it was interesting to see what would happen with Ron Roberts, and I know he was in the mix for Arkansas as well, and ended up going with Auburn. So great to see him land in a good spot. But no, frankly, I haven't heard which way things are leaning there at Baylor with the DC spot.
I know it's not the Big 12, but last night UCLA was given the green light to go to the Big 10, but they're going to have to pay a $2 to $10 million annual subsidy to Cal. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that they would really reverse that. I didn't think that that board and George Kliavkoff and those guys were actually going to be able to get UCLA to stay in the conference. But it probably like the outcome that everybody expected in terms of, yes, UCLA can go to the Big Ten. Certainly there's some upset people, high up there who want Cal to be compensated in some way. And I know they want to make UCLA pay more for the fact that, that there's going to be more, like they want them to be paying more for travel and taking care of the student athletes and all that kind of stuff. So about the outcome you'd expect, I just didn't really think there was any Hail Mary way that UCLA was staying in the Pac-12. And I'm not really sure what good that does anybody if you force them to stay in your conference.
Max, A&M's lost 22 guys to the portal. Jimbo's never really been that big of a transfer portal guy. But they've lost 22. I know they're going to bring in another big class. Do you think that he will be more active in the portal this year to try to salve the burn of a 5-7 season?
Yes. Yeah. And that has already been the case. They're definitely in the mix for some guys. In fact, they've got one of the best players in the portal, Tony Grimes, the cornerback from North Carolina, who's been basically a 3-year starter there, really talented player, former 5-star recruit. They've got him on campus for a visit today. A&M has been throwing out more offers to receivers, to DBs, to try and add some players at some of those spots. And certainly between that and the way they'll close their high school class, yeah, they're going to go address that. It's interesting. I mean, I tweeted that yesterday when Smoak Buoy went in, and I don't really mean to single them out because there are going to be a lot of schools that have 20 guys that go in the portal. I think that's just kind of the reality of how this is going right now, especially like the schools that have coaching changes. You see a lot of volatility and stuff, but it's a fascinating opportunity for Jimbo Fisher here where, if you want to, like, it depends on how you look at it, right? Like maybe they brought in the wrong kind of players for the culture that they're trying to have there to be more successful. And this is a chance to go replace them with guys that can contribute, or maybe this is just the nature of the beast here when you're recruiting at as high a level as they have. And you've got some 4-star, highly ranked guys that, whether it's 1 year or a couple of years there, aren't getting the playing time or whatever they think they deserve. You're going to see some attrition. And so how they respond and bring in more guys is going to be huge in terms of determining just what are the expectations for A&M in 23 when we all kind of felt a year ago like 23 was the big year for A&M when they really make a run.
Max, just based off your timeline alone, we could ask you another 1,000 questions about portal decisions. I mean, just in original recruiting or plain recruiting. Miami just landed a 5-star offensive tackle, but I wanted to end the combo asking you about Mike Leach and the news earlier this week in regards to his sudden passing. Obviously, it's been an emotional few days for a lot of different people, and I think and hope that he had an idea of how much he was beloved. But if he didn't, I'm sure he's looking down and realizes it now, and certainly his family does. Your thoughts on the passing of Mike Leach?
Yeah, he's just a legend, and it's still like even though the news came out over the weekend, and I think we all had a few days to kind of see where this was heading and stuff. Like it was still it's still hard to process. It's still hard to believe Mike Leach is gone, even if you hear that on Monday morning and you see it coming and stuff. It's still just kind of hard to believe that guy is not with us anymore, and he'll be missed. I mean, he just completely revolutionized how football is played over the last 20 years. One of the great characters in the sport. I had a few opportunities to talk with him on the phone or in person and stuff, and that was just always always a treat. And, it's so funny, guys. You see everyone over the past few days kind of share, like it seems like every media member or whoever has a story about, I needed to call Mike Leach for something for 10 minutes and we talked for 3 hours. It's like, I don't know how he made time in the day in his 61 years to connect with as many people as he did, but it's just amazing that he did. That's just the kind of personality he had. And certainly there's a lot to take away from that in terms of that guy just being so generous with his time and with his, interest in literally anything.
We had I know you got to go. We had a guest on this city. Got a call from Leach like at 3:00 in the morning, like the day or two before he passed away, just to kind of check in with him on
he would take phone calls during practice. Like he didn't care. He's just happy to talk and help people. And what a character. There's just truly a one of one when it comes to coaches in this sport. And, there's just really no replacing him.
Max, thank you as always. Anytime we get you, appreciate it. Thursdays around 4, Max Olson, theathletic.com, their senior college football writer.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. And like I said, I could go just to his timeline and we could just go one post after the other. I'm like, hey, what did you think about this guy's decision? Or what did you think about this guy going into the portal? Or like Kyron Drones. We could ask him about 1,000 different things. But while we were having that conversation and right as it was getting started, I do want to pass along. We're not going to, especially this time of year, getting to every single commitment that's being made, because that would just be we're not a pure recruiting show. That would be ridiculous. But when things are worth mentioning, we'll mention them. And Miami's certainly celebrating right now. Big-time 5-star offensive tackle Samson Okunlola, whose nickname, according to Tom Van Haren, and there's various others who have pointed this out as well, but the Pancake Honcho has committed to the Canes. And so, big-time 5-star offensive tackle pickup for the Canes. And there's a lot of, as you can imagine, mudslinging going on of like NIL and John Ruiz and, the impact that he had or how all of it unfolded. But that's this era now, man, right? That's the era that we've been talking about is like, if that's okay, so be it. That's what it is right now. And so, when you want it to be the setup that it currently is, where there's kind of no real monitoring and that you can just kind of do things between the lines as best you can, there's going to be some decisions that you're probably not too fond of because somebody swoops in or whatever the case may be. A big-time pickup for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, and if Mario Cristobal wants to get Miami back to anywhere close to their glory days, and he was one of them. He was one of their big offensive linemen back in the day. They're going to have to dominate the trenches again, like everybody does. But that's the one thing that I'm still surprised that Miami got so far away from their identity, because a lot of people think about Miami and you think about Ed Reed and Sean Taylor and Andre Johnson and Reggie Wayne, these big time skill guys. But the reason that those teams in the 2000s and the teams in the 80s won was more really about, in the 90s, Warren Sapp and Bryant McKinney and guys like that on either side of the ball that just got after the quarterback or didn't let the quarterback get touched. And Miami was as good at that as anybody ever was, really. And they just have gotten so far away. That was their identity. I think part of it, they started thinking like, hey, we're cool. Like, linemen aren't as cool. But, hey, in Miami, that was what they were.
Name a national championship program. And I maybe you can have skilled people, playmakers, but name somebody who truly won a national title without a great offensive or defensive line. I don't know if there is one. I don't know how you could do it.
This just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You have to have those things to win a national
and
title.
You get away from
You have to have those things to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You have to have those things to win in football. And there's certain ways maybe at the high school level you can get around that. But ultimately, especially in this setup, you're going to run into somebody that if you don't have those things, you are going to be exposed. It doesn't matter how good your quarterback is or, like USC with like Caleb Williams. You know what I mean? Like, he carried him a long way. But ultimately, like, the cracks in the foundation elsewhere were exposed. You know what I mean? And so, big-time pickup for the Canes, as I said. Did want to mention, he had offers from everybody. A lot of upset fan bases that are throwing mud right now, but the Canes are, like, rolling in it and loving it every minute of it, as they should. But picked the Hurricanes and Mario Cristobal over a finalist group that included Alabama, Florida, and Michigan State as well. So big pickup for Cristobal. They were a team that had a big run at the end of last year, with NIL, with signing day and all of that, and it didn't quite translate to the type of season they thought they were going to have. But they're clearly going to be very active once again, and this is maybe this is one that pushes them in the right direction ultimately. But I just wanted to mention that.
All right, Greg, thank you very much. By the way, Garrett Gunner in that state championship game going on the triple header today. AT&T Stadium leads Pope 14-0. Earlier, Hawley beat up Refugio 54-28 last night. Mart was beaten from our area and beaten up by Albany. And then tonight, Franklin's 3A defending state champions in Division I. They'll be playing tonight for a state championship. This is 365 Sports. The Carleen Bright Arboretum, the pavilion, the event center, all of it together, the landscaping, the beauty, the scenery, the views is fantastic. It is a place, if you have a special moment, you want to at least look at the options for you. Weddings, private parties, corporate events. The pavilion at the Arboretum is a state-of-the-art 10,000 square foot venue designed for all the occasions you could imagine, offering you opportunity to bring in outdoors, indoors. The large floor-to-ceiling windows take you out of the hustle and bustle, wrap you into nature for whatever special event you might have. Surrounded by beautiful grounds, capacity of about 360 to 400 people. And you also, if you have an event there, you can have outside caterers. There's no list where this is who you have to use. Weddings, rehearsal dinners, business meetings, reunions, whatever it might be, it's a great place to have it. The Pavilion Event Center at the Carleen Bright Arboretum, the city of Woodway. For more information, go to discoverwoodway.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks this holiday season, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big during the Big Finish sales event this month on the new 2022 Chrysler 300 Touring L with total values up to $4,000, plus $500 bonus cash to first responders. Hurry in and wrap up some of the best deals of the year at Allen Samuels in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's Tasty Oak Smoked Barbecue.
Next in line.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
We'll have Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com in a moment. Cowboys. I wonder if there's been a little back and forth, Micah Parsons and all that, but those two teams have to worry about this week. The Cowboys play a team that's kind of gotten better, Trevor Lawrence and company in Jacksonville. Mickey, thank you very much. Do NFL teams look ahead?
Well, I don't know if they do, but this one better not, because if they don't win this one, then whatever they're looking ahead for ain't going to be important, right? Because if you're 2 games behind the Eagles with 4 to go, you basically need to win out to have a hope of overtaking them for first place in the NFC East. So, yeah, I don't know. I think fans look ahead, maybe media look ahead, but if these guys are professional, they shouldn't be daydreaming about something that's not in their immediate future.
Mickey, I've heard some online rumors that the Cowboys might be working Tyron Smith a little bit at right tackle. Is that more just emergency preparedness more than anything else?
Well, I think they're getting him ready for an eventuality. And if you just use your logic, what's the simplest thing to do when he's ready to play? Just stick him in at right tackle. The left side of the Cowboys' offensive line's been pretty productive here over the last couple months. So why would you want to upset everything to move Tyron Smith back to his regular spot and then have to figure out, well, who in the heck's going to start at right tackle? So I think that with him taking some snaps at right tackle in practice, they were in pads today. I'm sure that secret got out of the bag. Then see when he's actually ready to play a full game. Mike McCarthy has been saying, he probably needs a couple practices in pads to be ready to go. Well, this was the first one today. Now, does he get another one? Do they say after the first one, yeah, let's give him a couple series here, a couple series there, and then have him ready full time for the Philadelphia game. So I think a lot of it has to do with how he performed today, how he performed Saturday, and then physically, how ready is he to play on Sunday after not having played a game since January of this year. So I think there's a lot of factors in there before they, come up with an absolute conclusion to what they'll do on that offensive line.
What do you feel any sort of way about moving? I mean, obviously he's doing it in practice and they're on a run right now, but what if, next year rolls around and they would like to keep him there? Do you think he would do that?
Oh, I think he would do anything to make, $8-10 million a year more. Yeah. If Tyron Smith, he'll do probably whatever's asked of him to do. and he probably won't say much about it either way. So yeah, I don't think he's got a problem with that. And if indeed it works out well this year, he's going to play another year, and they say, well, Connor McGovern's in the last year of his 4-year deal. We can go back to what plan A was for this year, with Tyler Smith playing left guard and Tyron Smith goes back to left tackle. But I think for right now, that's the simplest solution after losing Terrence Steele for the rest of the season, is plugging him at right tackle. Now, we'll see how that goes, because I'll guarantee you Josh Ball got some snaps there. Jason Peters probably got some snaps there in practice. And they just got to, as Mike McCarthy said, follow the snaps in practice to decide what they do on Sunday.
How much of the loss is Hankins?
Oh, I think it's huge. And I mean that in two ways. How important he was and how big he is to plug those holes in the middle, because if you noticed, when he got back, their run defense started to improve. Now, they did sign this Anthony Rush to their practice squad. David, 6'4", 361 is what he weighs. So, they got a body to put in there, but how well does he play? Because he's bounced around the league quite a bit. Never really has stuck anywhere. But if they're just looking for somebody big that's hard to move out of the way, he could be a, potential part-time answer until they're hoping that Hankins could get back from the sprained pec, or strained pec, I should say, by time the playoffs start.
That pec muscle, that torn pectoral muscle, you're done.
It's a season ender, right?
Is that what Jason Ferguson had one year?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're
and
done.
Somebody else recently had it too that cost them the entire season. So, it's a tough one to recover from. But boy, he was sitting in his locker today, and I'm sitting there looking at him like, oh God, he's as wide as this locker. This guy is huge. But the guy they brought in is pretty big too. So, maybe he can just, instead of getting knocked off the ball, just stand on the ball and allow other people to come in and swoop up for tackles.
Mickey, what do you think about the addition of T.Y. Hilton?
I really like it for what little it costs. It's basically $600,000, guaranteed for the 4 games, plus some roster bonuses depending on how many games he plays, and then another playoff bonus, assuming the Cowboys get there. I think that he's fresh. I understand he's 33 years old, but if nothing else, he brings some experience to that wide receiver room. I mean, he's been in the league 10 years. The only guy that's been in the league more than that in that wide receiver room at this point is Noah Brown. And the first, 3, 4, 5 years of his career, he's been basically a special teams guy that helped out at wide receiver. So if nothing else, he might be another coach on the field, along with the fact that he's fresh, he's healthy. And I made this comparison last night in my column, basically saying, think of Deshaun Jackson. Remember when the Cowboys played the Raiders last year? Deshaun Jackson was there. He only caught 3 passes, but he gave them fits because of his speed to get downfield. He caught a 56-yard touchdown pass. I think it was the next possession or possession after. He incurred a pass interference call in the end zone, which put the ball at the 1-yard line. It was a 30-some yard gain. They scored a touchdown after that. He had another 36-yard reception. He caught 3 of the 4 passes he was targeted with and made a huge difference in the game. So can they get that out of T.Y. Hilton, who has the same speed? And basically, you don't have to get intricate routes with him until he catches up with the offense. Put him outside on a 9 route and say, just go run. And he might run somebody might run into him, or Jacksonville, if it's Jacksonville or the Eagles, the next game think, well, we can't let this guy behind him, so we better cover him, maybe put a safety over the top. which opens up the space for other guys. So, yeah, I see no downside to having this guy, and having, listened to him at his press conference yesterday and just kind of a drive-by discussion with him today when I was leaving the locker room. He might be my new favorite guy after just 2 days. He just seems just a good dude, sharp, funny. I just see no downside to this.
Mickey, no matter what happens between Washington and the Giants I think they play, Sunday night or whatever. Maybe it's Monday night. I don't know. But whoever loses that game is still going to be above 500. The entire division will be above 500 through week 14 of a 17-game season. And, this isn't like the days of back in the maybe 70s or 80s or 90s in the NFC East, but it has turned into one hell of a division.
No, it absolutely has, and it's shocked everybody, right? But again, I think one of the things that's happened is they've managed to get good quarterback play on every one of those teams, even Washington with Heineke, right? Who would have thought that? But he's playing well. Daniel Jones looks revitalized. And then you got Dak and Jalen Hurts. So, yeah. And one of the things going into this season, it was like the one thing we thought we knew is the Cowboys were the only team with a viable quarterback. You didn't know what Hurts was going to do. Was he going to take this big jump that he has? You weren't sure what Daniel Jones was going to do, a new coaching staff. Could they, restart his career? And God knows what Washington was going to do at quarterback. And as it's turned out, all four of them have gotten pretty good quarterback play, including the Cowboys when they had to rely on their backup, Cooper Rush, who ends up winning 4 or 5 starts.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is viable. I mean, that is certainly true. He's been fantastic. Mickey, the Jags this weekend, this is not your classic Jags team that has fallen on their face all year. They appear to be getting better and gaining momentum and week by week washing off the stink that was the Urban Meyer year.
Oh, absolutely. What did they do? They got off to a 1-6 start, maybe 7 start. No, 2-6, right? And now they're 5-8. They've won 2 of their last 3. They beat Tennessee this last game, and Trevor Lawrence is playing his best ball since entering the league. I saw a stat in their release where since the month of November, he's had a 111.7 quarterback rating, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, completing 70% of his passes. So he's playing well. And here's the other rub. 6 times this year, including this past game against Tennessee, the Jacksonville has held the opponents to no sacks 6 times. And he's only been sacked 23 times. So they lead the league in holding opponents to no sacks in a game. I think the Cowboys are right behind them in a 3-team tie at 4. So not only is he playing well, but they're doing a good job of protecting him. And the addition of Kristen Kirk out of A&M and Zay Jones, a free agent from Arizona, has given them threats at the wide receiver position. And by the way, if you remember, Zay Jones, the brother of former Cowboys linebacker Robert Jones. So, yeah, when you put good people around your quarterback and you protect him, and the guy's got some talent, and we knew he did from his days in college, he's probably going to have a pretty good year because the quarterback, and I'll say this to the day I die, is not out there playing singles.
Yeah, and what all the AFC needs is another young, bright star quarterback, right? With Josh Allen, Mahomes, Herbert,
and think about this. Think about this with Jacksonville. I know they're 5-8, but leading the division right now is Tennessee at 7-6, and they've already beaten the Titans. they're going to be all fired up for this game, because if they can win this game and get to 6-8, and they get a chance to play the Titans the final game of the season, and should they win that, and the Cowboys have to play Tennessee, and they're probably hoping the Cowboys win that game, they got a chance to win that goofy AFC South.
Yeah.
So this game's important to them. They're not a 5-8 team that's mailing it in. They understand they've got to win out to have a chance to win their division. But you know what? The Cowboys have to understand they've got to win out if they're going to have the chance to win the NFC East a second time in a row, to become the first time since Eagles did it from 2001 through 2004.
Mickey, thank you as always. Thank you so much. Mickey Spagnola with us on Thursdays around 4:25, 4:30 on the Cowboys, who play in Jacksonville. And then, around the corner, that Christmas Eve showdown, which will have massive numbers. Cowboys and Eagles, for at least Philadelphia just completely just chokes them out on the NFC East, or we have one hell of a finish right after that. When we come back, Craig Smoak's off the radar. Just after 5, we're going to have a guest who covers Purdue. They have the coaching change with Ryan Walters. A couple of players turn to the NFL, and this is 365 Sports. Pickup Outfitters, createacommotion.com. Pickup Outfitters just celebrated their 25th anniversary. And I mean, they had some amazing stuff. They really did. But the Christmas specials aren't over, and very similar to what they offered during the 25th anniversary. Free installation on all bed covers purchased and installed at Pickup Outfitters. Their bays behind the main part of the building are fantastic. They're clean. Jay made a great decision and put in brand new equipment. The Texan specialists are fantastic. $100 off any ranch hand, Frontier, or Western Grill Guard. Any toolbox, $50 off. RKI or WeatherGuard heavy-duty toolboxes, $100 off. WeatherTech or Husky floor liners, $40 off when you purchase a set. ARE and Lear camper shells or DCU units for $200 off. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Specials are good through Saturday, Christmas Eve, through Saturday, December 24th. So a week from this Saturday, you have a chance to get all of these specials or look at them for Christmas gifts or for yourself at Pickup Outfitters. Jay Errett, they do a great job. CreateACommotion.com online and 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental. Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to the water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
Welcome back into 365 Sports, and welcome into Off the Radar, segment on Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 4:45 that we take a look at, a grab bag of headlines and stories from around the world of sports. Sometimes it'll include college football. Sometimes it won't. Just all depends on what is going on out there currently. But got truly a grab bag of just various things that we can dive into here. Did want to mention, because of our setup, we can't watch the Texas High School Football State Championship games, which is going on right now. I know a lot of people are definitely caught up in those contests, and we are now into day 2 of the state championships here in Texas. Yesterday, Benjamin beating Lorain 68-20 to earn a state title in 1A Division II and 1A Division I. You had Abbott falling, Abbott, a somewhat local team around here, falling to Westbrook in blowout fashion, 69-24, and then the Mart Panthers losing 41-21. To the Albany Lions last night in the nightcap, which we know Mart very well, and we're not used to seeing them get beat by 20 points ever, much less losing state championship games. I mean, I guess we've kind of seen that happen, but still shocking to see them get beat by more than, a handful of points on any given.
Smokey and I did a Mart game that they lost by 20 points.
Did it? What?
The state championship game, we did one.
They beat Goldthwait one year. When did they lose?
Well, I mean, okay, no, you didn't do that one with me. Okay. I went to Wichita Falls.
This is their 14th appearance, and they've won 8, so they've lost 6 others.
Yeah, I went to Wichita Falls and watched Canadian run straight through them.
Canadian's an alpha dog type program.
Well, for those that don't know, it doesn't happen often that Mart loses a football game, period, much less they get beat by 3 touchdowns. That's what happened last night. Earlier today, Holly beat Refugio 54-28 as Holly claims a state championship in Class 2A Division I ongoing right now. In 3A Division 2, right, is up first right here. Gunter up 21-0 in the third quarter over Poth. And then later on tonight, you'll have Franklin and Brock coming up in the nightcap. So that will be the 3A Division I game, and there's still 2 more days of these games that people, not in the area don't know about. There's still, full slate of triple headers the next 2 days over at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, and I think a lot of the big brands that people will be paying attention to will come up on Saturday. That's when you'll see your Alitos, where you have like Jace McClellan, guys like that who ended up at Alabama, the running back. You have DeSoto, who's obviously littered with guys like Jonte Cook and Trey Wisner and players like that. And Vandegrift, also a very good team that has some Division I guys. That DeSoto-Vandegrift game ought to be awesome. And then North Shore and Duncanville. That's 2 heavyweight programs that'll be playing in the nightcap of all of them on Saturday at 7 p.m. So if you're interested in high school football and you've got, what do you need, a satellite package to get Bally Sports West if you don't live here in Texas?
Yeah.
If you want some true top-of-the-line high school football action, you can get yourself a little Bally's pass or whatever. There's another game tonight, and then 6 more spread out over the next 2 days with all of the highest rated classifications. And especially on Saturday when you start dipping into Duncanville and North Shore and DeSoto, that's when you're talking about a lot of the major big-time headline recruits that a lot of people are interested in.
In fact, Franklin playing tonight, the defending 3A Division I champions, against Brock, which should be a great game. Their running back, Bryson Washington, is a Baylor commit.
Yeah.
And they got a sophomore running back, Jaden Jackson, who's getting a lot of attention too.
Yeah, so that's one part of the Texas High School Championships that is fun to see is, like I remember Jordan Whittington having a huge game for Cuero years back. And that's always kind of the fun part is the big Division I guys have these, these major showings at AT&T. So it's very cool to see them with these grand send-offs. And it's Texas high school football, like the pageantry and the grandeur and all of that is kind of unique to this state. It is no more evident than when you get these 4 days at AT&T Stadium and people, flocking to go see high school football like nowhere else.
James Washington, who's a member of the Cowboys, he's been hurt, went to the Steelers, remember, played at Oklahoma State, was an amazing high school player for a state championship team in little old Stanford High School in Texas and up near Abilene or up in the Panhandle. So there's also just great names.
Yeah, backtracking a little bit, I usually would delve into ratings on a Thursday segment, but we haven't had games obviously being played. But, I'd just kind of run over the top 5 or top 10 games in any given week. But all we've had lately is Army-Navy and the Heisman Trophy presentation. And those 2 ratings are back and had this after the segment on Tuesday. But the Heisman Trophy presentation averaged 1.65 million viewers on ESPN. That's down double digits from the previous year. Smallest audience on record for the December traditional ceremony. The only time that it was smaller was the delayed virtual Heisman ceremony that they did in January, I guess due to the pandemic would have been. It's been a trend now where the Heisman Trophy presentation has started to fall further and further down in the ratings. They had almost 5 million back in 2012. Now, you can point to cord cutting, and that certainly is having an impact on it. But this is one of the lowest ratings they've had on record. You would think Caleb Williams and USC being a big favorite, not necessarily like a bunch of big-name guys. I mean, C.J. Stroud, though, has got the Ohio State audience. I mean, I know Max Duggan and TCU is not a huge university, but I think you had Big 12 folks tuning in for that one. So what do you guys point to when it comes to the Heisman? Is it cable? Is it cord cutting? Is it the award? Like, what do you think it is that we're seeing this downward trend as far as the kind of attention paid or at least the TV ratings side?
I just don't think the show's that good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I think. I was at an event Saturday night, so I didn't get to watch it. I just waited for my phone to do a ding or whatever. But I think we've gotten to the point where there's so many things now where there are so many stories that are told before they give out the Heisman Trophy that I wonder if they can keep the audience from where it starts to where it gets. Does that make sense?
Well,
these pregame shows are now 4 and 5 hours. I understand the Super Bowl, but
I'll just put a finer point on it. Look, everybody's
finer than mine. That hurts my feelings.
Everybody's got a great story and all, but the only thing that's interesting is the Heisman Trophy goes to and what they say afterwards.
Yeah, but the sponsors and all that.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, you're selling a show, but I'm not going to sit around and watch the other guys get interviewed now. And look, it's our job to follow college football, but I really feel like I know all the stuff they're going to say in interviews and all that. So
here's an interesting note, Craig. Jason O on the chat room. College football has too much other stuff going on. Transfers, playoff, NIL, coaching changes to concentrate on simple things like games and end-of-the-year awards.
I mean, I can agree the awards kind of come and go because, like, all these illustrious awards that are, typically very history-rich were all announced over the last several days. And, like, I mean, the Home Depot College Awards, they had that show. And I guess all kind of an all-in-one thing there, but then there's various others too. So, yeah, I mean, I hope not too much is lost on the games themselves, but it does feel almost like the NBA free agency thing where the regular season's sort of an afterthought and everybody cares about the free agency part of it and the trade deadline, the postseason, and that's really where a lot of the action is. So you could very well be onto something with that. And when it comes to the games themselves, like, yeah, how many people are watching it because they just love watching college football? I'm actually one of those, but I know a lot of people also watch just simply for the money action and just simply for the betting action. So just something to make note of. But yeah, 1.65 million. Back in 2012, they had nearly 5 million people watching that thing. So cord cutting or lack of interest, whatever you want to point to, a small audience for the Heisman and Caleb Williams' win.
If they knew, if the fans or the audience or you, the audience, knew that they were going to announce it in the first 10 minutes, I bet the number would be much, much, much larger.
Probably.
Because they would come in, they don't have to wait an hour and a half of features that have been told in every game prior throughout the last 17 weeks.
I definitely saw a tweet that said, hey, if you want to tune in now for the actual winner, like, tune in now.
Yeah.
Like, and I think they probably did have people flocking, like, oh, they're actually going to announce the winner, then now I care. But yeah, the 45-minute or however long it was buildup of everybody's personal story and all of that, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people could take that or leave that. Meanwhile, Army-Navy last weekend, 6.94 million tuned in for that one, and Army's big overtime win on CBS. Sounds like a good number, 6.94, but it was the only game in town other than obviously like the playoffs and on other levels. Smallest audience in its traditional by itself window since 2014 when they pulled in only 6.3 million. They did have much lower ratings a couple years back, but there was, because of the shakeup and the scheduling because of COVID and all of that, they actually had other competition, other college football games going on. So smallest in that standalone window for Army-Navy, but still pretty healthy, nearly 7 million viewers for that one. But ratings are interesting, kind of how they fluctuate. Tonight in the NFL, 49ers at the Seahawks. That'll be 7:15 Central Time on Amazon, of course. And Brock Purdy, the big story right now in San Francisco, coming in to save the day at quarterback, but apparently he's questionable, although that's, a term that doesn't necessarily mean a guy's not going to play. More often than not, they still end up playing, but he is dealing with some injuries. Apparently was limited in practice, according to Kyle Shanahan, but I would expect he is still going to play. An oblique rib issue is what they are calling it. But yeah, that's 7:15 on Amazon.
Has San Francisco had, how many injuries have they had? I mean,
a lot. They seem to, but they've managed to fight through it.
Yep, and a couple more notes here, and hopefully this is an entertaining game because, man, I got to tell y'all, these primetime games have been so hit. I say this every week now, but especially on Thursday nights and just kind of in general, like these night games for the NFL have been very hit or miss. I mean, I don't care if you're talking Monday, Sunday, Thursday, whatever. It's but especially Thursday Amazon slot. I don't know what it is. I just can't fully embrace it. Maybe I need to start betting on it. Maybe that's what I need to do to.
Well,
maybe that's the trick. Maybe that's the trick. I don't know. Meanwhile, I hardly ever mention the NBA, but because of the star power of Steph Curry, he is going to miss a few weeks. Left shoulder injury, according to ESPN earlier today. Got hurt on Wednesday against the Pacers, and so he's going to be out for a few weeks. And then final note, wrap it up here. Grant Wahl mentioned the famed soccer reporter who passed away suddenly and unexpectedly over in Qatar for the World Cup, which will be coming to a close this weekend. His brother, I had made mention, he had come out after initially saying that he felt like he had been, murdered, and it was a whole issue of, gay pride, and that, threatened his life and rubbed people the wrong way and what have you. He came out and said earlier this week, and I made mention in this segment, that he no longer suspected foul play. That's Eric Wahl, Grant Wahl's brother, but they did actually come back with what happened, the full results of the autopsy, and they revealed that on CBS this morning. His wife, Dr. Celine Gounder, said the autopsy revealed that he died of an aortic aneurysm. So that is what cost Grant Wahl his life overseas in Qatar during the World Cup. But that was revealed during the CBS morning show. So for all of the conspiracy that initially hit and just for all of the wondering of how does a healthy guy at his age, how does that happen? It was an aortic aneurysm that ruptured, according to his wife in the NYC Medical Examiner's Office. So rest in peace to Grant Wahl, age 49, but now there is some, I guess... Closure, yes. And there's a few things that are off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. Katie Rader on the chat room. Maybe put all the awards in one show. They actually do that now on the Thursday prior. All of the awards, some of them had already been announced, some of them not. But they do that on a Thursday night, kind of like an ESPYs version. And then the Heisman is a couple of days after.
I would love to know, and I don't know if it was like Cole Kubelik or somebody else, but I vividly recall, like, I was not watching the presentation part of it. Like, they were going through, like, here's Lincoln Riley or, whatever they were doing. I did not care about that, as much of a college football fan as I am. But as soon as I did see that tweet from whoever it was like, hey, if you care, they're doing it now. It's like, I wonder what that number, if you could calculate that, would be. Like, did they gain a couple million people that were like, all right, here's what I wanted to see. And if they did a 10-minute version, like after SportsCenter, that could probably do a massive number because people are just all about the short dose right now, right? Like the TikTok of life. Just give us the meat of it, and maybe that'll be the trick to it. I did want to make mention, I saw when I was glancing side A while I was reading this, going through this segment, was how many people, somebody asked me how many people Baylor has in the transfer portal. They've got a handful of guys. Kyron Drone's already committed to Virginia Tech. Devin Neal, safeties. He was looking at Louisville last I looked. He's from Kentucky originally, so it would make sense if he landed there. Seth Jones, a wide receiver who's been in the portal since October, I think. And then Josh Fleeks, who entered, another receiver / running back who entered earlier in the year. He's sitting out there. Thought Tech and Joey McGuire, because that was his high school coach, would be the link, but maybe that's just taking some more time.
Or maybe waiting until see what they sign.
And see what the numbers shake out to be. So, yeah, that could be what he's waiting on. But other than that, that's who they've got for right now, just 4 guys, and one of them's already committed elsewhere.
We have a guest coming up on Purdue, but of the ones that have entered the transfer portal, which ones are, we'll look at this later in the show, which ones are the ones that you really wish had not done so, if any? This is 365 Sports.
I would say Kyron Drones to answer that just because they could use a backup quarterback right now. But outside of that, Richard Carr, they are the people that you can count on. I did not buy my car originally at Richard Carr. I hadn't developed as strong of a relationship with the folks over there as I do have right now. But best believe because of that, when it is time for me to buy a new vehicle, which hopefully isn't too far, which hopefully is a bit far down the road, they will be the people that I go to. And in the meantime, they're the people I go to regardless because I'm not looking to buy a car, but I do appreciate their great customer service. And that is one of the things that they offer you over there at Richard Carr is not only great deals when it comes to new vehicles, but also pre-owned vehicles. And then whatever vehicle you have, the customer service part is really where they make their hay. Right now, you can find the new truck or SUV for Richard Carr over on the lot. They've got plenty of gifts that can't be beat from Buick, GMC, and Cadillac, trucks and SUVs in stock. They've got dozens of different models of both trucks and SUVs from the various brands that I mentioned there. But biggest thing is it's the most inventory they've had in at least 2 years. You think about the supply chain issues and microchip problems and everything that's affected dealerships over the course of the last couple of years. Now they're kind of getting back to normal. So the biggest inventory in 2 years over on the lot right now. You can get 3.9% interest for well-qualified buyers on GMC Sierras, on GMC Terrain trucks, 3.99% financing on Buick Encores, Buick Envisions, also Buick Enclaves in stock. Richard Carr also has dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks under $20,000. They're affordable, thoroughly inspected, and ready to finance, and they have quality vehicles ready to reliably take you on the road this holiday season. And as I mentioned, I mean, not only the new cars and trucks, the most inventory they've had on the lot in 2 years, the Sierras, for example, and the great deals they have there, but also the pre-owned cars as well, the dozens that they have under $20,000. But then that third piece that I mentioned that really sets Richard Carr apart, which is that customer service. If you want to drive your car or truck a little while longer, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road. Go to the website, richardcarr.com, to see their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable repair or upkeep. 23 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on. Check them out, Richard Carr, over on Highway 6 at the Imperial exit or online at richardcarr.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It's been a busy week at Purdue. Obviously, Ryan Walters introduced as the new head coach. Drew Brees helping out. And, of course, they had a couple of decisions with O'Connell and Trice in the NFL. and Alan Karpik. He is a part of goldandblack.com, a part of the On3 Network, joins us on 365 Sports. Alan's you're the publisher, right, Alan?
I am. That happens to be, that's my day job. But no, it's been a wild week at Purdue, and probably more of a conversion. They also have a number one basketball team. So it's just been crazy in terms of not only the football stuff, but obviously with Matt Painter's basketball team doing well. Never a dull moment in West Lafayette these days.
Hey, that's a good thing. That is a great thing. I remember the Purdue teams with Gene Cady because I'm old, so good for you on that. So Ryan Walters, what's been the reaction? What has been the overall kind of feel for him being the coach replacing Brom?
Well, I think initially there was some surprise because I think that you always think, well, you're going to get an established coach, you're going to get a head coach with offensive experience. If you're a Purdue fan, that's what you would expect it. They went the other way. They got a guy that's defensive coordinator, one of the four youngest coaches in the Power Five, the youngest coach in Purdue history, or the youngest coach dating back to 1947 in terms of Ryan Walters. I really liked him in his initial press conference. I think he brings a lot to the table. He's going to have a big job in front of him, as any coach does at Purdue. Purdue's not a program that has to scratch and claw to get to the places it gets to typically, and I think he is very intriguing from that standpoint.
So a little bit of a philosophy shift from an offensive guy to a defensive guy, but that style travels really well. And it's bad weather in the Big Ten a lot of the time. Do you think that they will still be an offensive-based team, or will this team look more like Illinois did last year?
No, it's going to be. I have to believe it'll still be an offensive-based team. In fact, Ryan Walters said that yesterday in his introductory press conference. We're going to try to score points in bunches. That is kind of the Purdue way. He said that they basically raised their pool for assistant coaches up about 35% from when they had on Jeff Brom's staff, and it gives them a chance to get talent from an assistant coach standpoint. You're going to be tested a little bit in terms of what your network's like, who you're going to get to work with you. Ryan Walters didn't want guys with egos, but they want to score points for West Lafayette. And their defense actually statistically over the even in the Jeff Brom area, the defenses historically had higher rankings than the offenses. It's hard to believe, but this is a thing that still offense puts people in the stands. And Jeff Brom, you have to give Jeff Brom a lot of credit for restoring the fan base to coming to Ross-Ade Stadium. They played at almost 100% capacity this year.
So Aiden O'Connell among some players that's going to skip out on the Cheez-It Bowl against LSU. Also Payne Durham, tight end, stellar wide receiver, and Charlie Jones and Corey Trice, cornerback. Just kind of the era that we're in. Any surprise there? And kind of what does that do in terms of how Purdue fans, media will view this upcoming bowl game?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with it, and then you couple the fact that Drew Brees has agreed to come up and be an assistant coach, and I mean it's just and they really felt when they hired or when they named Brian Brom, Jeff's 15-year younger brother, as the head coach. I think that had something to do with keeping O'Connell there. I think O'Connell is a great guy. He's gone through a family tragedy 3 days before the game against the Old Oak and Bucket game against Indiana, where his brother was unexpectedly died. All those things could be playing into it. Obviously, Aiden is going to try to make a run at the NFL as well. And Charlie Jones, another huge loss. There's a guy, second-team All-American, set the Purdue record for receiving yardage this year. I don't know. And it's the broad stroke problem, guys. I think you got to figure out a way. I don't know how to solve this, but the fact that the transfer portal, National Signing Day, all those things come in December, make it easy for coaches to go, make it easier for guys to opt out. And you're going to have a shell of Purdue's football team. LSU, I know, has had a couple opt-outs, but this is the big bowl. This is the biggest bowl Purdue's played in 19 years. And the fact that the Boilermakers are going to be playing without their best players and a team that was 8-5 in the first place, is a little bit troubling if you're a Purdue fan.
I was looking at the roster online because I didn't know it off the top of my head. There's a couple of freshmen, a couple of redshirt sophomores. They have a ton of quarterbacks. I would want to play quarterback for Jeff Brom, too, if he was there. But they seem to be okay, and I don't know about anything about National Signing Day. Is the quarterback room good?
The quarterback room may be good. It's inexperienced. And now they have Austin Burton, also a six-year senior UCLA transfer that I would expect, though I can't be really sure, would get the nod as starter. He's a little bit more of a runner than Aiden O'Connell. He had to play a game this year against Florida Atlantic when O'Connell was injured, and he's got some experience. He started a game or two for UCLA out on the West Coast. So before he transferred to Purdue, I would expect, though, again, you just don't know what they're going to do. But yeah, Michael Alamo, and Brady Allen, two pretty good. Brady Allen from Indiana, Southern Indiana, pretty highly regarded guy, 4-star quarterback. They like him, but he hasn't played at all. And Alamo has played a little bit, not much. I would anticipate Burton's going to get called. So yes, they have. The Purdue quarterbacks, they're not without skill, but they certainly are without a lot of experience in an offense that is going to need to somehow generate some points to be competitive against the Bayou Bengals.
Alan, how do they feel that Ryan Walters makes them ready for the new look Big Ten in 2024?
Well, I think the thing in his niche, Purdue is historically, when it's been successful, and it hasn't always been successful. It's been a middling program at best certainly over the last 15 to 20 years. Even Jeff Brom, who finished with a winning record, was 36-34. Now, that was a heck of a job because Purdue was a dumpster fire when he took the job in 2017 in terms of wins and losses. So he did a great job. But I think if Purdue needs a better mousetrap, typically, it's been offense a lot of times. You go all the way back to Joe Tiller in 1997. And he was a guy that brought basketball on grass to the Big Ten and really changed the face of the Big Ten a little bit in terms of passing offense and had that Washington State connection, kind of like Mike Leach. And my point is that Purdue has been Purdue's MO. Purdue, you got to think about this, guys. Purdue has not had back-to-back winning coaches since 1936. Oof. So that's the challenge for Ryan Walters. I like the fact that he's young. I think he's going to connect well with players. I think he has a good chance in today's transfer portal NIL world that we're in right now to really resonate with guys. But he is inexperienced. So the proof will be in the pudding. He's going to have to make good hires as assistant coaches. All coaches, good coaches, have good chiefs of staff, so to speak. Guys that can keep him focused on what he needs to focus on. He's an impressive guy. He did a great job in Illinois with the defense. And I think he would have had Deion Sanders not gotten the job at Colorado. I think Ryan Walters was next in line there. He's a Colorado grad. Obviously, Sanders took the job there. But so I think all things point to intrigue and I think positive. But again, Purdue has a very daunting schedule for Purdue next year. They play Fresno State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. There are no layups in the non-conference. In addition to Ohio State and Michigan are back on the schedule. Ohio State and Michigan were not on Purdue's schedule in the regular season. This year, of course, Purdue played Michigan in the Big Ten Championship. My point is, you want to start that first year off with some level of success. It's going to be a big challenge. It would have been a big challenge for Jeff Brom had Jeff Brom returned for the Purdue to be a bowl team in 2023. But again, it's going to be fun to watch this guy go. He's got a great personality. I think he's the right guy from that standpoint.
I loved the scholarship being awarded. His very first meeting, that clip that went viral. That was awesome. And kind of a good way to start things off. But you mentioned Brom again. I wanted to ask you just kind of what was the feel? I mean, going back and revisiting that sudden move to Louisville, I'm sure there was some thoughts when the Louisville job came open of like, this could be a possibility. But how did kind of the Purdue fan base react to that move?
Well, it was more than a possibility. I mean, I think everybody was surprised that on that Monday morning that Scott Satterfield was named the head coach of Cincinnati. But once that door opened, it wasn't a possibility. It was an eventuality. I mean, it was going to happen. And I think most of the fan base got it. I don't think I think Purdue got it from that standpoint where they knew that this was likely. And to be very honest, Jeff Brom, not that he wore out his welcome in the West Lafayette, but he probably this is probably as good a time as any to move on. Certainly for him, gives Purdue a chance to go a little bit different direction. Louisville always was home. You got to remember too, and not that it would have been on your guys' radar screen, but back in 2018, his brother, his dad, begged him basically to take the job when Louisville job came open at that point when Bobby Petrino was fired, and that didn't happen. And Jeff Brom kind of bucked his own family to stay in West Lafayette, and that didn't sit well with his family for a long time. So there was no doubt that this was going to happen. It was just a question of when. It happened to be in December of 2022 when it all came down.
Hey, Alan, you've been great, but I want to ask you about Matt Painter in number 1 Purdue, because obviously we're in Central Texas. We cover Baylor quite a bit, but we've really become more national in many ways. What a start, right? Incredible team. It's early. College basketball's hard, but they do look very, very good.
Shocking, really, that they are number 1. I mean, when you lose basically 4 starters from last year, a team that was disappointing to some extent, only got to the Sweet 16, did not win the Big Ten, but it was ranked for the first time last year as number 1 in the country just for 1 week. Purdue now back at number 1. I don't think anybody saw that coming. This is a team that if you love basketball, they're fun to watch. They share the basketball. They've got 2 freshmen that are just really, it's not an overstatement to say they're lighting the world on fire, at least college basketball. When you beat Duke and you beat Gonzaga, crazy statistic, no team has beaten 2 teams in the top 10 by 18 points or more, dating back to UCLA in 1968 when they beat Houston in the Big E in the Final Four in Los Angeles. That's how long it's been. And Purdue did that with a very young team, but it goes 10 deep. There are a lot of interchangeable parts, but Zach Edey, the 7'4" center, has really developed not only offensively, but he's a voracious rebounder, and there ain't anybody bigger than him in college basketball, and he is something that the teams are going to have to deal with. Now, Nebraska last week did a good job with him, had limited his shots. Edey still got a boatload of rebounds, but Purdue managed to get out of Lincoln alive and get its number 1 ranking. It'll play Davidson on Saturday. I think Purdue's got a chance to be undefeated heading into the new year. If it goes well, it should. They'll be heavy favorites for their last 3 games of 2022. And then it gets tough because they'll play Rutgers and then, of course, go to Ohio State as well. But this is a team that's really balanced and has no real weaknesses. But they're not chock full of – there are no 5 stars on this team either. Just a very, very balanced team, a fun team if you love basketball, and a team that shares the ball. They're really fun to watch. And Letcher, Lawyer, and Smith are just really something as true freshmen coming in. Indiana schoolboy kids. One from Westfield, Braden Smith, the point guard. Letcher Lawyer from Fort Wayne. Caleb First, also from Fort Wayne, a sophomore, has been good. They've had different guys contribute at different times. Even David Jenkins Jr., a transfer from Utah, who's come in and he's kind of the old. You guys are like me. You're older. You remember the microwave at Vinnie Johnson with the Pistons. He's that type of player. He can and he seems to be very comfortable. He's a starter at Utah. He's comfortable in his role coming off the bench and really contributing. And so far so good. This team can be good. It's going to lose games, guys. There's no way this team's going through. They're not going to be the next 1976 Indiana Hoosiers. But I do think this team, and when they're all coming back, assuming Edey comes back next year, which is an assumption, this team is really going to be loaded for bear for years to come.
Well, Vinnie Johnson played here at Waco at Baylor, so absolutely a legend here as well as he is in Detroit with his businesses and what he does. I'm so glad, Alan, I got a hold of you today. We really wanted to talk Purdue, and glad you were available. Appreciate what you've done with the site. I know you're a part of now on3.com, Black and Gold. It's a great site. I've been on it throughout the day. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck in all of what you do. Which gets most of the attention? Purdue basketball, transfer portal, recruiting rankings, the coaching search. Which one is the one that feeds the animal right now?
Well, this year, the last few weeks, the coaching search, but really this is still it hinges a little bit more as a basketball school, just a little bit more. It's not quite like Kansas, maybe in Indiana when it comes to that. And though Kansas had a pretty good year in football, but my point is it teeters on that a little bit. But there's a lot of interest in Purdue football here, obviously, and Purdue's got an identity with its quarterback. They're not a great program, but they can be a solid one, and that's what Ryan Walters is charged with, to try to get that done in his tenure in West Lafayette.
Thank you, Alan. Alan Karpick again, black and gold with the On3 umbrella and network, with us on Ryan Walters. Jeff Brom's leaving for Louisville, and of course some transfer offers. I mean, the roster in flux like so many others in college athletics.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be really interesting. I know he's a guy that a lot of people like, Walters, that is super young. I mean, to be, 36 and already a head coach at the Big Ten level, that's pretty impressive. But, I mean, he's an impressive dude, and I love the way that he started off. I don't know if y'all saw that clip of him giving Devin Maccabee a scholarship, right away. I thought that was a really cool kind of way to kickstart, his introduction to the team, and mentioning that he had played against him, obviously, being at Illinois, and, kind of having that relationship, and then giving a scholarship away to one of their better players, and then going from there. It'll be fun to track how he does and how they do. Obviously, it's a crowded room there in the Big Ten. When you look around, that you start to take away the division aspect of it as well. How does that affect a team like Purdue? Are they making a Big Ten title game anytime soon, like they did this year?
In football?
I don't know.
Right? It's a changing landscape. So he's got his work cut out for him, but they'll obviously be making good money. Could go use that in NIL. I mean, everybody attacks it differently, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he does and kind of how he rejuvenates or reorganizes, rebuilds that program, reloads that program, however you want to refer to it. But Brom did a good job there. As he said, there was kind of the writing on the wall once Louisville popped open, but that'll be one of many of these changes that we've seen that'll get reviewed and analyzed, and we'll look back in a couple years and put grade hires, and I'm curious to see where Walters ends up on that. But good stuff. It's just, man, it's a fascinating time, isn't it? I mean, all the stuff that's going on.
It is fascinating, but I got to tell you, and somebody asked me this, I think, in the text. I love it because there's always something, 5, 6, 8 stories a day, because of it's the transfer portal, or somebody picks up a transfer, that's signing day coming up, coaching carousel. All of this, the college football landscape itself, but it can wear you out. I mean, it can absolutely wear you down, but that's a good thing because it's coming at you in different directions. When we come back, got a couple of notes. We'll get to the chat room, some text line questions. Paul's top 5. It's called the top 5 at 5:55, but Paul's demanding more time, and that's fine too, because we went until 6:15 last night, but we don't have any end time, right? This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza with Bob Mock, the local owner. He's been a part of the pizza business for many, many years, couple of decades, and now he owns 5 locations in Waco. Bob Mock, great guy, 5 locations, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and Robinson. So he basically has encircled the city of Waco here in McLennan County. Also, Marco's Pizza. Go to marcos.com. If you download the app, you're 25% off your first menu order if you haven't ordered already. And then there's the Pepperoni Magnifico. There are the 1 or 2 or 3 topping pizzas. There are specials based on if you order online, carry out, or delivery. Order online, for example, the Pepperoni Magnifico, the code word is PepMag, and then you get a certain amount of price. You get a certain price for that. They have salads, pizza bowls, which is a little bit unique. Obviously, soft drinks if you want them. And then on top of that, you have wings, chicken wings, how you want them done and how many you want. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marcos.com.
The Big Finish sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco. Save big on Jeep models like the new 2023 2 or 3 row Grand Cherokee Limited with total values up to $5,000, plus $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments for 90 days. Jeep SUVs are known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a 3rd row. Find the Jeep that fits your family and wrap up some of the best deals of the year at Allen Samuels in Waco.
I know you've heard the exciting news. In our ongoing battle to end truck nudity in our lifetime, Pickup Outfitters is growing and expanding. Next year, we'll move into our new, larger facility on Waco Drive with expanded services. And that means we need more soldiers dedicated to help clean the roads and streets of Central Texas of naked trucks. We're currently looking to add 2 positions, a store manager and an installer technician. As a store manager, you'll oversee the day-to-day fight to end truck nudity. You'll work with our team to help concerned citizens outfit their truck. You'll help businesses and contractors in Central Texas get their work trucks prepped to keep our community growing. As an installer technician, you'll outfit naked trucks with new and modern accessories. You'll install lift and leveling kits. You'll work on suspensions. You'll be the grease that keeps our machinery running. Won't you consider joining our team? Apply online, on Indeed, or in person at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Earlier today, John Wilner, Pac-12 hotline on the decision by the California system and letting UCLA say, okay, you can leave, but here's what you're going to have to do. I tell you what, I got some good information from Tony Altimore, and I'm going to kind of share some of that. Tony, of course, a USC fan, covers the Pac-12, and he obviously has his emotions with them as well. He was, and I'm just kind of use some of his words, he thinks that perhaps that anything of any dire straits that California is in is probably not really, that's more exaggerated. Both these schools literally have money, all the money in the world. They just choose not to give any of it to their own athletic departments. Well, you saw that. Right. They have to rent Pauley Pavilion.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd heard that before. I was aware of that. Yeah. But yeah, it's still strange.
UCLA, go ahead.
Why is there a Pauley Pavilion? Like that's
how would we know there was a Pauley Pavilion if it wasn't for John Wooden?
Yeah. That would be like going to Disney World and find out that like Walt was underwater on it. You're like, what are you doing?
Isn't that the McLean Stadium thing though? Isn't it like the city? Doesn't Baylor pay, or like vice versa? Isn't there something to do with that?
They got TIF funds for that, but I'm not sure what else.
And of course, the new arena is going to be basically
it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a kind of an arrangement, but that's unique to hear that about Pauley Pavilion, a legendary place like that.
Yeah, Floyd Casey was on Valley Mills Drive, and it was owned by the city of Waco. I mean, that whole land right there. All right, he goes. UCLA gets $800 million a year in donor gifts. Cal gets $450 million a year in donor gifts. UCLA is operating on a core academic budget of $5 billion. By contrast, most Big 12 schools operate perhaps on a core academic budget of about $750 million. If UCLA or Cal wanted to just eat their athletic budgets, they could do so without burping, but they choose not to. UCLA's claimed debt is debt owed to itself. Think about that. You can write it off. It's gone. So thanks to Tony for some of the feedback from his knowledge out there, too.
I mean, I still think it's interesting that Wilner acknowledged, what do Stanford and Cal want to do and want to be and want to go in the future in terms of athletics. I think that's a question that's still, puzzling people a little bit. And maybe not puzzling, but it's a piece of curiosity moving forward of what exactly those two institutions are going to choose to do. Pay up like everybody else to play, or are they going to decide we'll just cut our losses and decide we can do this somewhere else?
Yeah, Stanford is interesting because you go to Stanford because graduating from Stanford means that you are more likely than most to get a very high-paying job, and after paying for that education, you're going to need one. But Stanford is the place that has built so many of, big thought leaders and people in this country that you go there, it's an elite place to go. And it's an elite place to go if you're an athlete too, but you do have to fall in both of those circles of being an elite student and an elite athlete to get that kind of opportunity. But if you are that smart, you can make money that you could afford to go to Stanford later in your life and not go there then and go to a different school that cares much more about football or men's basketball and then wind up at Stanford after your playing career is over. And so do they tire of running that rat race that has never been their thing? They used to be able to be like, look, come to Stanford. And people go, okay, I mean, better than anywhere else I can probably go. But now, come to Stanford. Nobody goes to the games. Everybody's got to study all the time. And we can't guarantee you as much money as a lesser school can, at least a lesser academic institution can, because we don't care as much about football as they do. So might as well go cash your checks while you can.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you know what? There's one more piece, though. Let's say you put up here are 47 things that have to happen. Now, if you're the Pac-12, whatever you do, move on, decide what they do, whatever the money is, whoever it is. The only thing that really kind of made me go, because of what we've had Bob Thompson, Patrick Crakes on, is when he mentioned that it would be one of the streaming services, ESPN and Fox, which we have kind of been given that impression that it's going to be a streaming service and one of the most likely ESPN, but probably would not include Fox. And if it does, good for them. Good for them. Now, one of the biggest story this week has been, without question, the death of Mike Leach. And I hope that we have given that as much justice and earned what he earned as far as the tribute and much, much more. But the other one that was blowing up on Monday that has all of a sudden just basically disappeared is Chris Beard and the arrest, a horrible story involving the police record, including apparently his fiancée. And all of a sudden, there's been nothing. Now, a lot of it might be behind the scenes legal or negotiations. Is there going to be a settlement? Is he going to be fired? Whatever. But I have not seen a lot of any follow-up on that at all.
I know one, I'm not saying the stories are the exact same by any stretch. Don't even try to paint me like that. But I went and looked at Outside the Lines just out of curiosity because, man, they've planted themselves in some college towns. And I'm not saying this is one where you necessarily need the day-to-day update on it because it does have to work its way through the system. But I know our man Deontay does some stuff with Outside the Lines on occasion. We need to ask him when they're planning the Chris Beard story. Yeah. And maybe they're just gathering the facts, but I went and checked out their Twitter page, and I know that it's not exactly as like when Bob Lee was still hosting it, it was on, like before the afternoon Sports Center. Like it was on every single day. And I don't watch ESPN religiously enough to know if it even is on main ESPN anymore. And that's not a shot. That's just being truthful. I don't know when it airs, but this seems right up their alley. And I looked at their Twitter page, and they have had 4 tweets in 5 days, and none of them are about Chris Beard. But this is an Outside the Lines type of story that I don't know how much they've mentioned it. Perhaps they have, and that's why I'm saying if they have, then I'm not criticizing. That seems up their alley, and you'd think that would, be something worthy of talking about. But it has kind of just in general died down, and I guess part of that is, what do you add to it? Because we got the police report. We've seen the video of him, his hearing, and him, sitting there talking to a judge over Zoom or whatever. And we've seen, however, nothing from Chris Del Conte, not a peep from Chris Del Conte, and really nothing of substance in the last couple of days in regards to any sort of statements or anything like that since they announced on Monday that, there was going to be Rodney Terry in his place as coach. But beyond that, I mean, I've seen a few people comment on it, but nothing in the way of much talk. And it does make me wonder. I did see, a couple people, and they're just throwing it out there. So it's Twitter, so anything can be said, pretty much, and how much substance you want to put into it. But there is that scuttlebutt because I guess it has been quiet for a couple of days of is Texas trying to, figure out a way to keep him on board and save this? And I mean, based on what we read, I would sure as hell hope not, because, man, that would seem mightily hypocritical based on kind of the way that they tend to operate and the way they tend to talk about how they operate in comparison to other institutions. So I know you got to let the legal system play out, but yeah, it doesn't need to be super quiet for 2 weeks until there's some sort of a resolution compared to, the way other subjects similar in nature have been discussed, for others.
I'm trying to think. When I was on Outside the Lines after the Sam Ukuwachu with Bob Lee.
And again, not saying those situations are exactly the same.
But after, I was about a week out of that. Maybe a little bit longer, because that was on a Friday. You guys were doing a remote. We were doing a remote at Raising Cane's. I had to go just over here to the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame so they could get the shot of us in the background, and then we wound up having to do it on the phone. But when I was on there, I remember it was pretty fast because that went like wildfire, especially post Art Briles' press conference. I wonder, again, information has to build a little bit more, but I think the biggest difference is we got a lot of information day one, and this was an incident that happened one night. I do wonder,
and I'm not talking about direct comparison just to that story. I'm saying in general with these types of stories.
What I do wonder about the 3 days of radio silence on it. There is going to be opposition research on this.
Oh yeah,
where people are going to go try to find everything they can about Chris Beard over his life that might have been anything similar to this. And hopefully this is the first time that this happened to him. But that is the stuff that's probably going on behind the scenes right now that we won't find out about it until that stuff breaks as well, so.
I want to mention it just because it has been so quiet. That story's not gone away, but yeah, it does seem like there's probably some facts gathering going on and some positioning going on and all of that. But yeah, it's been quiet ever since what was a very eventful Monday, that's for sure.
It was overnight Monday morning, early in Monday morning is when all the call went. The question I have is that there were so many from different angles, opinion pieces, columns, questions, this and that. I haven't seen any of that. And again, maybe that's the way it should be rather than the way it was before, whether it's been a scandal somewhere or any kind of a story similar anywhere on any campus around America. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5. Back at it tomorrow, by the way, at 3, tonight at 10:30 on Sports Tonight, CW Channel. We'll have this show and the best of what we do today as far as the best segments, thanks to Emery Winter for what he does. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, brand new place. Finally, they had some delays because of distribution, delays because there's just things that have to be delayed these days. But their new location, which is on the east side of 35 running through Waco. If you take a right if you're coming in from the south, and of course left if you're coming in from the north. A new 25,000 square foot showroom, over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or a weekend warrior. Now carrying Quikrete, so you can get your post and pipe and hinges, latches, and concrete for your fences and gates, saving you the time of having to go to several places for the material, one place after another. It's almost not so much one-stop shop. Yeah, it is when it comes to all of what they have. For example, standard long lengths, tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat. They now carry several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut for you on whatever your project is, whether it's real estate or commercial, if it's out on your ranch or in your backyard. It's Pioneer Steel and Pipe, new location, South Loop, east of I-35, pioneerboys.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas, familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 portal frequent flyers. 2020 The second one, I bet he felt had staying power until he got hurt again, and then they discover a new quarterback. Chance Nolan's in the portal, and he'll be someone who kind of falls out in the middle somewhere. He'd be a nice quarterback to have if you need him because of his experience, but not towards the top rung. He's a fine player. Didn't have very good stats. Gulbranson eventually replaced him, and he's somebody I think is kind of lost in the shuffle of what's a much bigger pool of quarterbacks, especially after all of the movement earlier this week. Yeah. Number 4, Connor Bazelak from Indiana now was at Mizzou. He'll be on his third school. He didn't have to travel
very far.
No, and we'll see where he winds up with the third spot. But he had his moment in the sun when he beat Florida, then wound up transferring to Indiana last year to take over for Michael Penix Jr., and we know who got the better end of that deal. So I'm not trying to knock Connor here, but this will be another time in the portal. He's looking for his third school overall.
Yeah, there's a reason why these guys are transferring everywhere.
Yeah.
Where did he go before Oregon State?
Hold on, I just closed his profile.
I think he might have been just Oregon State, Paul.
No,
I might be wrong, though.
He was at another place.
Okay.
Because I looked this up earlier.
Sure.
I looked this up earlier. He was also at a JUCO,
okay,
too.
He was at JUCO,
but
all right.
no, there's where is he? Jeez. I lost him.
No big deal.
I lost him. But
Paxton's going to rip you on this one.
Paxton is? I don't care.
No.
I don't just do this to entertain him.
Just clarifying what we were doing. So Bazelak. Again, these guys are journeymen now for a reason. But
journeyman's
fine
a good
player.
word.
Yeah.
Number 3, Zach Calzada will now be on his third school in 3 years as he is entered from Auburn. His moment in the sun came with a tremendous win over Alabama for A&M, but he was never going to be the starter again. Went to what looked like an open QB competition at Auburn and wound up being, he was injured this year, but everything that went on at Auburn this year, save for maybe the win over A&M, which he wasn't a part of because he was injured, was a just total S-storm until they hired Hugh Freeze. So, which that might not be in that too, but it.
How much would he have helped A&M this year?
Yeah, who knows? But he was thought to be. Here's the thing about Zach Calzada, which I will give him credit for. He was thought to be the weak link last year with A&M.
Yeah.
He was thought to be the weak link because they were really good on defense. They had a really good offensive line. They had skilled players all over the place. And he has a fantastic arm. If you were standing 10 yards away from it, he could throw it right through your chest. If he could hit you. That was the problem, is he would miss wide open receivers. And so it just wasn't in the cards for Zach Calzada. And so this is a guy I think he needs to drop down to the group of 5, but he has a big-time gun, by the way. Chance Nolan, Middle Tennessee State, Saddleback College, and Oregon State.
Okay, yeah. I trusted you on that. I didn't see what that earlier one. I couldn't find it on his game log, so that's what I was wondering about. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's certainly trended up, to Oregon State.
Oh, yeah.
Chance Nolan did. But Zach Calzada, I do think can help a Group of 5 team. He has a great arm, but maybe needs to not be in the SEC.
Yeah, at this point he's 0 for 2, and that looked like he was going to be the starter at Auburn, like you mentioned, and all of a sudden that became a very crowded quarterback room. All of a sudden it's like, TJ Finley's here, they had Robbie, and that was not at all what was expected, but you're right. I think some guys probably would do themselves a service by going down a level or maybe maneuvering around to another part of the country, and it sure seems like after his first couple of efforts, that's probably a good idea to get a nice change of scenery in one form or fashion.
Yeah. Number 2, Keaton Slovis. He will be searching for his third team after USC and Pitt. And apparently, BYU is a little bit hot on his trail right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Jaron Hall's hurt. It was funny. They showed the BYU team getting off the plane for their bowl game preparations. And I guess originally the social media account posted a picture that had Jaron Hall in it, and he was very clearly booed on a scooter or whatever, and then that got taken down. But now I think I saw today a video, and there's the guys getting off the buses, and it takes a little while, but eventually you see him pedaling on along, on his scooter. So yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to play. Sataki has said that earlier in the week, and their OC said that it looked like he was going to have a chance, but now they both kind of really calmed down. It sounds like he's not gonna play at all. But BYU needs a quarterback. did they not just lose or land a guy? I felt like last week. Didn't they lose a guy to Arizona State?
Yeah,
to Kenny Dillingham. Yes.
Yeah,
Conover. They definitely need some quarterback help, and I'm not super high on him the way it's shaking out these first couple of appearances. I really thought that was going to be a bigger deal at Pitt, but then Pitt decided to we're not going to have fun offense anymore. Our fun offense went to Lincoln, Nebraska, and so we're going to have more of an old school approach, I suppose, which kind of defeated the purpose of getting a big name quarterback, really. But that's a guy who is going to be very curious to see what the appeal is for him in the portal.
And number 1, JT Daniels.
Has to be.
USC in 2018, then Georgia in 2021, and West Virginia in 2022, and to be determined in 2023, but his name is in the portal. And you heard Max mention him earlier. It's one of the reasons I asked about him. If there was really a market out there for him, or if everybody, at least with JT Daniels, kind of knows what he can do at this point. And this is not a guy that at this point you're looking at potential. He's tapped all his potential. So he can do what he can do, but you're not paying for a star here. And when I say paying, you're paying for a star, especially if you're JT Daniels, who wanted a house and a personal chef to go to Oregon State. So, and he got a house at West Virginia. I don't know if he got a chef.
I want a house and a personal chef, or I'm not doing tomorrow's show.
Well, I guess you're not doing tomorrow's show.
He definitely got I guess not. He definitely got the house. I'm not sure about the chef. Wouldn't surprise me if he did on that. But yeah, I don't know. Started off looking like he was going to work out pretty well, and then by the end, they're pivoting to Martial, and looking towards the future. And I had a couple West Virginia fans mention that JT was hurt, or whatever the reason may be, and that they were pivoting, and now they were focused on the now and the future. And really, Neil Brown has no choice. He can't really focus on long-term building moves because he will never be around to see them if he doesn't win right now, like next year. But yeah, JT Daniels, a lot of hype, a lot of talk about this guy. He's got some talent, obviously, but yeah, that's the way of the world right now. So very curious where he ends up.
One of his best games was against Baylor on the 43-40 win, threw for 283 and a touchdown. He threw 3 picks in a loss to Tech. They got blown out, I think, the next week, if I'm correct. No, the week before. Yeah, the next week. Yeah, he just never had. His only big game was the loss to Kansas, and that game went into overtime. He threw for 365. Just didn't put up a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, so that's it. There you go.
I would have gotten that one right. Paxton, I hope you got at least JT Daniels. He said it was a tough one. Yep, he had Daniels. Devin Leary. He had Devin Leary. What?
These are guys who I don't think Paxton understood the assignment. These are guys who have been in more times than once. Devin Leary, Spencer Sanders, Haynes King, the guys that he threw out there. This is all their first trip. And hopefully for them, the last trip into the portal.
For some, it will have to be. Spencer Sanders, you got to get this one right. He's only got a year to go. But, yeah, you're right. Or they could end up like Keaton Slovis or like JT Daniels, who are, chopping for school number 3 at this point. Won't be surprising to see guys on their 4th school. I'm sure there's probably an example of that somewhere, just somebody, not super high profile that's bounced around. But, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
From working man, I'll settle for a maid. From wet blanket, I'd take a housekeeper every other Thursday. Thanks to all of you, Gregory and S. Michael. Let's go Mountaineers. Great show, guys. Thank you, Gregory, you too, and all the others that also said it. Thank you so much, all of you. We appreciate your time. Also, was on the text line quite a bit today. A lot of you appreciate your time. Gunner ended up winning the class, 3A Division II game today. They beat Polk. That's not a surprise, 42-7 tonight. Franklin led by Baylor commit running back Bryson Washington in what should be a hell of a game with Brock coming up. For Garrett Ross, Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, Levi Caraway, for Paul and Craig, I'm David Smoak. Thank you so much. And our great sponsors, this is 365 Sports.